One sunny fall day in 2017, a heated argument broke out in a small apartment. The young woman looked sternly at her husband and said, "Yenmu, take off 100,000. His brother wants to buy a car." Yanmu sighed heavily, gritted his teeth, and gathered his wits, and coldly replied that he had no money. Her eyes flashed with anger. Jumping up from her chair, she shouted, "There's no money? What about his salary for this month?" Without waiting for an answer, she started going through his pockets and added that hadn't she told him to go to those old men and ask for money? But finding nothing in her pockets, she swung around in a rage and slapped him on the cheek. "Otrebeer, where's the money? Where did he hide it? Show me," she shouted, throwing him a scornful glance. Yanmu coldly glanced at her, bitterly grinned, and quietly said, "Money. Is that money again?" Her rage only intensified. She grabbed the glass from the table and threw it at the man with a scream and force. She shouted angrily that he was also laughing. The loser. Her voice was full of contempt and rage. Yanmu quietly repeated her words, grinning bitterly that he was a loser and had no money. His patience was bursting. With resentment in his voice, Yanmu said that he had paid for everything. For her parents' car and house, for his brother's wedding. Even if he made 100 million a month, it still wouldn't be enough for her family. Her face contorted in contempt, and she asked, 100 million a month? Isn't Fang's family his family? Is he so selfish that he can't take care of his family? Yanmu clenched his head with his hands, laughed briefly, and said to hell with such relatives. He had had enough of them. She said with a smile, coldly and ruthlessly, that if he was fed up with it, he could die and end it all. Yanmu exclaimed with great confidence. "Great." His eyes darkened and he asked, "Do you think he won't do it?" The girl immediately took out her phone and said, "Really want to die? That's a thought, Yanmu. Just let him wait until she buys accident insurance, and then his death will pay for it." Yanmu, holding back the rolling bitterness and resentment, said, "Well, just fine. She is so cruel, Fang Yushui." There was a window behind him, and, unable to stand it, he turned sharply and headed towards it swiftly. Without thinking, he jumped, determined to get it over with. The last thoughts flashed through his mind, and with tears in his eyes, he thought that this was the end of his life. Moments before his death, the words on the slip diagnosed him with terminal stomach cancer flashed before his eyes. And suddenly, in the next instant, he found himself in 2009, kneeling in front of people, stunned and confused. The woman perplexedly and sarcastically asked, "Yanmu, why did he suddenly fall to his knees?" The guy said with a sneer that kneeling after entering a room is a tradition in their family. The world swirled before his eyes. He gasped nervously and finally realized he was still alive. The woman spoke again and asked, "Still alive? There's no need to make a fool of yourself." Yanmu recognized her voice. "Mom?" he asked with shock. She asked, "Who's his mom here? If he added 400,000 to the bride price, only then would she agree for him to call her mother." He began to slowly realize everything, and shocked, he asked, "Did she just say ransom?" And then he realized that he had gone back 8 years, to the time when he proposed to Fang Yushui. The woman demanded that he add 400,000. What is there to think about? Yanmu got up from his knees and said with cold certainty that he had thought it over. He recalled to himself that in his past life, he had fallen into the Fang bloodsucker family. With a sly smile, he said he would. The woman shone with joy and asked again, "Do you agree?" Remembering all the suffering, he firmly resolved not to repeat past mistakes. He exclaimed, "I don't fucking agree!" The woman's face contorted with rage, and she asked, "What did he say, brat? Her daughter isn't worth $1 million?" Yanmu looked at her contemptuously and asked her if she had a hearing problem or a head problem. "He won't pay a penny for the bride." Fang Yushui abruptly stood up, her face distorted with anger, and with indignation she exclaimed, "Yanmu, how could he do that?" Approaching her with a confident stride, Yanmu, without showing any emotion, asked with cold determination, "How could he? $1 million your mother give you in marriage, or sell you?" Confused and not knowing what to answer, she doubtfully said that it wasn't easy for her parents to raise her, Shouldn't she at least pay the bride price? Unbending under her pressure, he asked with a sneer. And she asked him what? A loser brother who only wants money? Xiao Yu, no longer able to contain his anger, cried out, unable to bear the humiliation. Yan Mu, who the hell did he call a loser? Yan Mu turned to him with a cold, menacing gaze and said with full confidence, You, for he is a lowlife who can do nothing. Xiao Yu, unable to bear it, rushed forward, ready to attack, shouting furiously, Fuck you! Yan Mu, easily dodging the attack, coldly thought that did he really think that he would hit him back and swear like before? In the blink of an eye, he grabbed Xiao Yu's head, easily dropping him to the ground. The woman saw this and worriedly shouted, Bastard! Let Xiao Yu go! He's his brother! He's part of his family! He looked at her coldly and asked with complete certainty and indifference, Family member? There was no wedding yet, and he was not his brother, not a member of his family. Letting Xiao Yu go, he resolutely added that he wanted nothing to do with their family from now on. Fang Yushui asked hopefully, almost pleadingly, Yanmu, isn't their relationship worth this money? He asked coldly, did she ever think about how hard his parents had to work to earn that 500,000? He remembered that in his past life, for ransom money, his father had gotten desperate and bought a lottery ticket, and surprisingly won 500,000, and then got a nervous breakdown over the money. As he left the apartment, he said with a heavy look that they needed the cash cow, not him. The next day, he entered the lottery. Glancing at the sheet, he saw the information that the first prize pool of the Shuangxieju lottery was 100 million yuan. He thought to himself that this was not a bad start for the lottery. At the same time, the first prize and his father's number were one number, and 100 million yuan. For various reasons, this series of numbers was too deeply imprinted in his memory. When Yanmu went inside and handed the money to the seller, he told the gentleman that he wanted to buy a lottery ticket. The salesman handed him the ticket and told him that there would be a Shuangxieju lottery drawing tonight at 9 o'clock. As Yanmu was leaving the store, he noticed his father, who didn't see him, and quickly hid. Father, wiping his eyes, said that he had just seen Xiao Mu. Didn't he go to the Fang family today? Or was he just imagining it? Yanmu looked at his father sadly and thought that it was lunchtime. Dad must have had a bad lunch again. The father, walking out of the store and clutching the ticket in his hands, began to pray quietly that if he won the prize, he wouldn't have to worry about buying a bride for his son. God willing, he should be lucky this time. Yanmu looked resolutely at his father and said with full confidence that starting from today, he would not let him and Mom suffer. Suddenly a message popped up in his mind. Congratulations on binding the Moon Eye God system. The task is to get 100 million assets and own your own enterprise. The completion time is 24 hours. 21 hours left until the end of the task. Take the task responsibly, otherwise he will lose his life. Yanmu dumbfoundedly exclaimed, What kind of system is this? And what does it want from him? Walking home and looking at his hand where the eye seal was, he said with bewilderment that this system said he only had 21 hours left. They're kidding. He's just been reborn after all. Suddenly a girl's voice came out and said, What are they doing? Take your hands off! Yanmu instantly recognized this voice and thought, This voice, it's Meng Yao! He, quickly climbing the stairs, exclaimed, worriedly, Meng Yao, what's wrong? He remembered how he and Meng Yao had been friends since they were kids, and she was like a little sister to him. In the past life, Meng Yao's mom lost 500,000 in mahjong, and Meng Yao temporarily lived with him. Then he was at Fang's house and didn't answer Meng Yao's call. And then he found out that they couldn't pay their debt and were killed by their creditors. In this life, he must protect her. Meanwhile, the man lifted the girl's hands and started groping her. His touch was disgusting. He said vilely, Keep screaming. He will look at the person who comes to save her. The man standing next to him asked, Who does he want to call? Yanmu? Suddenly, Yanmu swiftly appeared from around the corner. His movements were lightning fast, and without delay, he gave the men a series of precise blows and told them to let her go. The girl could not contain her emotions and rushed to Yanmu in a hug and said with genuine relief, Brother Yanmu! He did not hide his excitement and asked Meng Yao, Is she all right? One of the men cried out with fury in his eyes. Fuck! What son of a bitch dared to hit him? The second man, who was clearly going to attack from behind, asked with a threat in his voice. Is he fed up with life? He would kill him with his Wuji Celestial. The girl, noticing the danger, warned his brother Yanmu. Watch out! Yanmu easily intercepted his hand and said, They are just kung fu amateurs. Still dares to use Wuji? The man who felt a sharp pain said, It hurts! Let go! The man pulled out a knife and threateningly shouted, The bastard he hurt his brother, and now he's going to die for it. Yanmu, letting go of the captured man, calmly asked that they came for the money, right? If they make even a step in this direction, they will never get it. The man, hearing his threats, asked if he had any money. Another man decided to reflect, and said that on the face of it he was poor. But wasn't the boss desperate for money? The man, holding a knife, threatening, asked that he had any idea how much they were owed. $500,000, does he have that kind of money? Yanmu replied confidently that 3 days and he would guarantee them $500,000. In response, the man said, Fine, include his brother's medical bills, plus 100,000. The second man squeezed the judgmental man's hand and said, What the fuck is this crazy power? The man added with a threat that if the money was not there by then, he would make this girl repay the debt. Yanmu replied with icy calmness that he would bring the money in 3 days, but they would have to beg forgiveness on their knees in front of her. The man said, Fine, their boss is the director of Fuda Real Estate Company. If they don't bring the money, he will personally rip off his legs. The system said, the key word in this mission is Fuda Company. 20 hours left in the mission. Warning, the host body will experience unfavorable symptoms. Yanmu thought, Fuda Real Estate Company? Is this the company that went bankrupt? Did he wonder if his life was defined by life points? It is too obscure. It is just virtual points. Meng Yao said, Brother Yanmu, it's all her fault. They can find her wherever she goes. She also dragged him into it. He gently stroked her head and said, Meng Yao, don't worry. Money is not a problem. In 3 days, he will make sure they apologize to her. She is too excited. Let her go back home. Yanmu suddenly felt faint and grabbed his head, wondering why he was suddenly so dizzy. Meng Yao anxiously asked Brother Yanmu, Is he not feeling well? Unable to resist, he fell on the girl and excitedly thought, Damn it! Meng Yao, blushing, asked, Brother Yanmu, is he sick? He said, embarrassed, that it wasn't on purpose. Maybe because he hadn't eaten during the day, he was a little weak. The girl said it was all right. She would bring him something to eat. Yanmu looked at the seal and thought, Are these the same random symptoms? It seems like this system is completely controlling his life. Meanwhile, at Fang's house, a woman asked in surprise, How so? He still hadn't answered her call? Fang Yushui nervously sighed and replied with confusion that, no, he did not reply. The man took a swing at his daughter and shouted without hiding his anger, Useless creature! She can't even control a man. What's the use of raising her? The woman defending her daughter asked, Where is he in such a hurry? Don't they think Yanmu is not himself today? The man stroked his chin in thought and said that it was so strange. Usually, he always obeyed Xiao Shui. What has changed all of a sudden? He looked at his wife, and they both uttered, Could it be that Yanmu had gotten rich? Grabbing his daughter's hand, he said she must hold on to him for her happiness. What if others took him away? He thought that if he really got rich, they would raise the price of the bride price, and all his money would be theirs. The woman pushing her daughter towards the door said, Sure, look how he hit Xiao Yu and how he talked to him. The girl said, Okay, then she will go. Fang Yushui sadly thought that Yanmu must be hiding something. He would never do this to her before. Yanmu carefully sliced the ripe apples. Then, with a slight smile, he said, Eat some more fruit. At this moment, there was suddenly a loud knock on the door. Meng Yao said she would open it. Hurrying to the door, she opened it and immediately exclaimed with fright, Sister Yushui! Her face was flaming with anger, and her eyes were filled with resentment. She instantly walked inside and said in a demanding tone, Yanmu, explain yourself. Yanmu asked, What is she doing here? They have nothing in common anymore. Didn't he make it clear? Or is her sycophant mother still not giving up on her? Yushui, unable to contain her emotions, shrieked that it wasn't like that. Is he dating someone else? So when the bride price was raised, he changed his mind? Yanmu, slightly annoyed by her rebuke, coldly replied that there was simply nothing between us anymore. Considering that they had been dating for so long, he would advise her to leave her home as soon as possible. Perhaps she can still live freely. Yushui, angered by his words, threw one last time. Yanmu, son of a bitch, she will make him regret it. When the door behind her slammed shut, Meng Yao quietly muttered to brother Yanmu, he and sister Yushui, that they had quarreled? She wondered if they loved each other. Why did this suddenly happen? Yanmu said he was leaving and might not come back today. She can stay here for the night. He thought that he can't say that the relationship is forgotten. Okay, better see what business opportunities exist. After a while, a large crowd gathered on the street of Jiangchen City. Scraps of words reached him, that he was the same person who won the third prize in the Shuang Xieju lottery, right? There was only one digit difference between their number and the number of the first prize. Was he sorry? Yen thought that Dad had also come to cash his prize. The center of attention was his father, who mumbled that he just wanted his son to be able to buy a house and get married. Yanmu picked up the newspaper and moved further away from the crowd, pondering that it was fortunate that he had depersonalized his winnings before all these people started crowding in. Less trouble with reporters and the curious. While looking at the newspaper, he came across an article and wondered if the system had tipped him to buy Fuda Real Estate Company. Fuda Real Estate Company is indeed the most convenient enterprise to invest in. No one believes in Fuda now, but who would have thought that in a few years, it would become Jiangchen's biggest business? If he buys out this company now, he'll be the richest man in town in a few years. Yanmu said resolutely that he would definitely start a business on this basis. Here was his chance to make money. The next morning, at 9 o'clock, he stood in front of Fuda's company building. Didn't Fuda go bankrupt, he asked? Why were there still so many people here? Had someone already gotten ahead of him? At that moment, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. The system immediately announced that there was 1 hour left to complete the task, and low on life points. The body would experience random adverse symptoms. Yanmu gritted his teeth in pain and thought with annoyance that his heart was aching. If he didn't have to waste so much time in the bank, he wouldn't have wasted this extra hour. Next to him, 2 workers were carrying a large banner. One of them shouted loudly that they were carrying a banner. Yanmu asked what it was. The worker, wiping his sweat, replied that they were on strike and had not been paid their wages for 6 months. Yanmu frowned and asked that it was a common situation for construction workers to have their wages delayed. Why is there such a commotion? The second worker explained that they had heard that the general manager had run away with all the money, and the second director, this Kun Rui, is now in debt up to his eyeballs. There's no money to pay them at all, so they've all gathered to get something out. Yanmu cried out happily. What? The general manager has escaped? Is it for sure? The worker said that the information is first-hand, straight from the company. Kun Rui is supposed to show up here today, so they will block his path. Yanmu, squeezing through the crowd, threw a thank you over his shoulder. Uncle! He thought that there wasn't much time left. There was still a chance to make it. The crowd surrounded Kun Rui's car, shouting furiously, Kun Rui, give back the money! He won't leave until he gets his paycheck. He owes the migrant workers. Kun Rui remained calm, but his bodyguard, clearly nervous, unhappily muttered that these stinking peasants had lost their fear. Are they tired of living? The bodyguard then suggested, Director Kun, why doesn't he contact some people? These rednecks are just a colossus on clay feet. They will lose their power if they are taught a lesson. Kun Rui sighed and asked, What good is it? There are hundreds of people out there. Will he find hundreds of people willing to fight against them? And who will be responsible for the dead and injured? Meanwhile, Yanmu, making his way through the crowds, knocked loudly on the car window, attracting their attention. The bodyguard flinched in surprise and said, Fuck, what the hell? At this point, the system coldly announced that there were 25 minutes left to complete the task. Yanmu abruptly opened the car door, quickly climbed inside. Li Biao asked, Who the fuck let this insolent person in here? Get out of here, Yanmu said firmly and composedly. Mr. Kun, his name is Yanmu, and he has an important matter to attend to. Li Biao interrupted him, grabbing him by his shirt collar, and asked, Is he completely deaf? He said for him to get out. If he doesn't get out, then blame yourself. Yanmu, nonchalantly, replied that what he is about to say will affect whether or not Mr. Kun spends the rest of his life in prison. Is he sure he wants him to go? Li Biao angrily growled that he was just like the people on the street asking for money. Kun Rui intervened and said that he didn't like the delayed paycheck either, so he had already figured out a way to pay it all off. If he demands something now, it won't work. Yanmu uttered with certainty that he had misunderstood everything. He is here to give them money. Kun Rui asked incredulously, What does that mean? Yanmu explained that this meant that he would help him recover all their financial losses, including their salary arrears. He would buy out Fuda's company and become its director. Kun Rui chuckled and asked, Did he even know how much the economic loss of this project was? Not to mention the acquisition, just paying the workers' salaries alone would be cosmic. Yanmu irritably interrupted and said that he couldn't spend so much time with them. Just let him name the amount. The system reminded me that there were only 10 minutes left to complete the task. Kun Rui stated that if he didn't have 50 million, let him not even think about buying out Fuda's company. Yanmu, without flinching, replied with absolute certainty, Only 50 million? That's fine then. Kun Rui was furious and exclaimed, A juvenile puppy! How dare he be impertinent! Li Biao, throw him out. Li Biao grabbed Yanmu by his shirt and asked, What is he building up here? Does he think it's all toys? Yanmu, with a sudden sharp movement, suddenly intercepted the guard's arm and pinned him to the seat. Li Biao only had time to exhale in pain and surprise. Damn this guy. Kun Rui, stunned, thought that looking at his clothes, you couldn't tell that he was rich or skilled in martial arts. But he was able to overpower Li Biao. Gathering his thoughts, Kun Rui stopped the guard by grabbing his elbow and said, Wait. He said he can't give the workers paychecks right now, and he doesn't have time to mess around with it for a long time. If he wants to buy it, so don't blame him for being rude. Yanmu said, Don't worry, he will take this plot of land, and he will even help pay them right now. He thought to himself that the news said that he had several plots of land. If he got his hands on everything now, he would double his profits in the future. He will also buy all the land he owns. Kun Rui asked, He wasn't here to joke around? He thought that if he gave in to his emotions, he might lose all the plots of land. But if he can buy everything, it will be a big relief. Yanmu confidently asked, Mr. Kun, does it look like he is joking? Without further ado, set a price. The system reminded again that there were only 5 minutes left to complete the task. Kun Rui, shocked, asked, Is he serious? Li Biao thought that this guy doesn't know that the price of land in this area is very high, but still willing to buy it at a high price. Isn't this crazy? The system message has sounded again, with 3 minutes remaining until the end of the mission. The host will begin disabling 5 senses due to the penalty. If the mission is not completed, the host will die. Experiencing intense pain, Yanmu struggled to ask, Well? He thought, the hell with it. With death. Kun Rui has huge debts and he can't wait to get out of them. He has to buy Fuda out. Kun Rui said, 20 million. If only he can find 20 million, this piece of land he will immediately hand over to him. At this moment, Yanmu thought about what he said and why he couldn't hear anything. Had he lost his hearing? With difficulty, he hurriedly said, Yes, go straight to the registration. Yanmu followed Kun Rui's lips and gestures, and realized that he had agreed to the 20 million. Kun Rui ordered and said, Li Biao, take care of the formalities with Mr. Yan. A system message sounded that 10 seconds remained until the end of the mission. The host's life force is slowly depleting. Yanmu thought, his vision is also disappearing. There are 10 seconds left. He should be able to sign this contract in time. He hurriedly paid with his card, and the app confirmed the successful transaction. Yanmu heaved a sigh of relief and thought that the system didn't say the time had expired, so he had made it in time. But why does it seem like his strength is leaving him? His life had just begun. How could he die again? The system has announced. Congratulate the host on the end of the starting task. Received rewards: 10 life points. Additional bonus survival points, 3. Unlock the first level of the trading system. Yanmu thought happily, it's gone. Life points are earned based on income, investments, and rewards for completing tasks. Survival costs 1 life point per day, and life points are used to buy items from the system store. Just then, a rock flew into the car, and someone's voice outside yelled that if they didn't get paid today, they wouldn't go anywhere. Kun Rui shouted Li Biao, "Don't let him leave! Where will they look for him later?" The bodyguard, Li Biao, worriedly asked, "Mr. Kun, he is not hurt, is he? What should do next? Why doesn't he contact people to come and relieve them?" Kun Ru, after casting a quick glance at Yan Mu, turned to him and, still worried, asked if he could see it. Yan Mu calmly replied that since the money had already arrived, they could just send them their paychecks directly. He thought that his body was slowly recovering, and right now he only had 13 life points, which meant that he had 13 days left. He needs to find a way to get life points. Kun Rui ordered and said, "Do as Mr. Yen said. Tell the people outside that they will be paid tonight." Li Biao nodded, briefly answering well. Leaning out of the car window, Li Biao picked up the loudspeaker and loudly announced to everyone, "Pay attention. Go back to your homes. The boss said that the wages will be paid tonight." The workers were whispering, weren't they? It's been delayed for 6 months. Are they going to pay all the wages today? Okay, let's give it one last chance. They can't avoid it anyway. Let's split up and come back tonight. Li Biao reports that everyone has dispersed, Mr. Kun. What now? Kun Rui replied that they would now go back to the office and invite Mr. Yan to see the plans. In Fuda's office, Kun Rui unfolded a large map in front of Yan Mu and, pointing out the details, said that this was their planning book. Yan Mu circled a few areas on the map and said that he didn't need this planning book. Let the area here be empty for now. Don't build any buildings or move anything. Then again, pointing to the plot, said that it was important to buy these plots of land, and also to buy this one. Kun Rui worriedly said that this piece of land in the east of the city is too remote. Although it is cheap, it has no value. Roughly speaking, no one even wants this piece of land for free. Yan Mu cut off that it shouldn't bother him. Just listen to what he says. He thought that there would be a few schools near this land in the east of the city, and it would be great to build a commercial zone. When they buy this land, they will need to build a large shopping center, specialty restaurants, a diner, a bookstore, and build a hotel as soon as possible. The finishes have to be of a new pattern to make the buildings look stylish. The task of finding a construction team is left to him. The emphasis is on reliability and quality. Kun Rui assured that he could rest assured. He would take care of it. Yan Mu put his hand on Kun Rui's shoulder and said, "Do what he tells him, and he won't treat him badly. It's just worth trusting his decisions." Kun Rui added that there will be an investment meeting at Jinpeng Hotel tonight, and there will be many interesting projects there. If he is interested, he can accompany him there. Yan Mu was interested in the investment meeting? He thought that life points were accrued from his income and investment. If he could successfully invest, he would get a lot of life points. In the evening in Jinpeng Hotels approaching the front desk, Yan Mu asked the question, "Hello, on which floor is the investment meeting today?" Suddenly, he heard someone nearby mention Madame Fang's name and abruptly turned around. Seeing a familiar face, he thought in amazement, "Fang Yushui? What is she doing here?" Some man turned to Fang Yushui and said that the last time he had seen her was 3 months ago. He didn't expect Mrs. Fang to become even more beautiful. Fang Yushui thought to herself that if Yan Mu had just given the bride price to her parents, she wouldn't have had to entertain this stinking man. The man nudging Fang Yushui asked, "How could she think of anything when he was here? He will help her." At that moment, their gazes met, and a tense silence hung between them. The man watching this scene thought with a slight suspicion, could it be that this guy and her are old acquaintances? Yan Mu, holding back his emotions, thought that he had only broken up with her a few days ago, and she was already dressed so openly and accompanying another man. Okay, it's none of his business. At this moment, walking past, a man grazed Yan Mu's shoulder with deliberate rudeness. Yan Mu, frowning his eyebrows and trying to understand what was going on, calmly asked, What was he doing? The man asked irritably, "What is he doing? He is the one standing in the middle of the road, blocking other people's way." He then rudely poked his finger at Yan Meng and sarcastically added, "You know what kind of place this is? This is no place for someone as poor as him." Yan Mu, ignoring his aggression, asked the girl a question. "Is she the one who chose what to wear?" The man, embarrassed, blurted out, "How dare he ignore him? He doesn't even know who he is. And how dare he indulge the girl right in front of him?" Yan Mu looked intently at the girl and asked her a direct question. "What kind of relationship do they have with him?" The girl, with a cold and detached expression, replied briefly that it was none of his business. The man, satisfied with her answer, exclaimed with a sneer in his voice that he could only dream of such a beauty. They walked away. Yan Mu, while seeing them off with a glance, a bitter thought flashed through his mind that he thought that Fang Yushui was originally a simple and kind girl. Looks like he was wrong about her. He clenched his fists in frustration and thought it didn't matter because they were already broken up. It was all in the past. With these thoughts, he went to the 11th floor of the hotel where the investment meeting was to be held. The system message sounded that if the carrier signed a contract to invest in the business, he would be rewarded with 10 life points. He thought it wouldn't be easy to sign the contract, so Kun Rui had looked into everything beforehand. Several businesses that had skyrocketed in his past life would be in his pocket. However, as soon as he approached the entrance, he was stopped by a guard and told to stand where he was. In such a hurry? Does he know what this place is? "No outsiders allowed." Yan Mu, keeping calm, replied with confidence in his voice that it was an investment meeting. The guard asked skeptically, "You know, does he have any idea who all these people are? They're all rich and quite high up. He's not sure he can get in." Yan Mu irritatedly and coldly said that he was also going to invest in the business. The guard looked him over from head to toe and asked him what kind of supervisor he was going to pretend to be by dressing like that. The head of the cleaning staff? There is no cleaning service here. He should get back to his business. Yan Mu mentally thought with disdain. Investors are judged by their clothes? Suddenly, the guard said, "Hello, Mr. Ma." Mr. Ma asked, wondering if he hadn't just seen him on the bottom floor. Wasn't he able to escort him out with a few phrases? The guard replied that he didn't know where he was from, but he didn't seem to understand when he was spoken to humanly. He even said he was going to invest, but I find that hard to believe. Mr. Ma looked at Yan Mu with a disdainful grin and mockingly said, "Invest? Do you want to go into investing with nothing but grit? He should go earn money for a decent suit. Don't bother people's eyes here." He put his hand on Yan Mu's shoulder and continued with a sneer, saying that impudence was fine, but not in this kind of place. For example, when courting a girl. Hugging the girl, he said that just being cocky wasn't enough. You had to have money too. He wants to do that too, doesn't he? The guard, not letting Yan Mu pass, blocked his way again and shouted that he was not allowed to enter? What the fuck is wrong with him? Mr. Ma noticed the familiar and became animated and exclaimed loudly, "Oh, Brother Kun is here too. It's been a long time." He headed towards Kun Rui. And Yan Mu turned to the girl and asked sharply, "She was doing this for money?" The girl replied that it was none of his business. Yan Mu asked disdainfully, "What does money matter to her? And she would go after anyone for them?" Yan Mu clarified with bitterness in his voice, "For their sake, is it worth it to dress like this and sell your body?" Meanwhile, Mr. Ma was happily exchanging pleasantries and exclaimed that he had heard that a noble had bought his company. Not only had he paid off his debts, but the company's business was also doing well, to which he congratulated him. Kun Rui, smiling, replied that it was true. He was very lucky. He was so worried about the unpaid installments that he couldn't sleep and didn't expect this turn of events. "Mr. Ma, how is he doing?" Mr. Ma replied with a heavy sigh that things have not been going well for the whole company lately. He was not as lucky as Brother Kun, but they've always had a good relationship. Maybe he could introduce him to this nobleman. Perhaps he might be able to help. Suddenly, Kun Rui noticed Yan Mu. As he left, Kun told Mr. Ma that he had business to attend to, so they would talk about it another time. Walking up to Yan Mu, Kun Rui respectfully greeted him, calling him president. Mr. Ma, watching this scene, couldn't believe his eyes and thought in utter confusion. What did he call this guy? Hearing Kun Rui call Yenmu as President Yen, the girl thought that he was just a petty employee with mediocre performance. How could he get the big boss to call him president? Mr. Ma walked up to Kun and asked, "Brother Kun, isn't he confused? How can he call such a yellow-haired boy the president?" Kun Rui replied, "Mr. Ma, you can't judge a book by its cover. President Yan is now the head of the Fuda company." Ma, stunned, asked that he was the person who bought his company. Kun Rui confirmed, yes, it was President Yan of their company. Ma immediately went to Yenmu and told him not to take his words to heart. He did not know what his position was, so he thinks that a high-ranking person forgives the mistakes of people below him. Don't be angry. Yenmu, ignoring his apology, said, "Mr. Kun, let's not waste time and come in soon." Ma, without giving up hope, continued that today's situation was his fault, and if he needs to do something, just let him say it directly, and he promises to do it for him. To express his apology, could he treat President Yan to dinner after the investment meeting? Yenmu coldly looked at him and directly asked, "He is Ma Lun, right?" Ma Lun cheerfully said, "Yes," but instead of pleasantries, Yenmu threw coldly and sharply, for him to roll out of here. Ma Lun gritted his teeth and mentally scolded. What a bastard, too arrogant. Thinks he's so important with a few pennies? He'll see what he'll do to him. At the investment meeting, Kun Rui asked Yenmu if he had a specific goal for this meeting. Yenmu replied that, not yet. It was better to look around first. He thought that the first few companies he thought of had already recruited people, so there didn't seem to be much of a chance. Noticing Xingyun Corporation on the card, Yenmu was surprised and said that he didn't expect to meet a leading internet enterprise from his past life. But now it's still a small company. It's surprising that no one is interested in it. A man came up to Yenmu and handed over his business card and said that their Xingyun Corporation mainly deals with internet products and wireless routers. This is his business card. Looking at the business card, Yenmu thought, Zhang Peng Yue? The founder of the company himself is bowing out to attract investors? It seems that his success is not unfounded. Kun Rui, watching this, quietly remarked that routers are something that used to be manufactured overseas, and they probably don't have a big market domestically. Other investors started discussing that this is true. Routers are now very advanced, and therefore may not be affordable for domestic manufacturers, and with such capital, they can successfully invest in computer hardware. Another added that in their time, the internet is not that expensive. If people can afford to use it without a router, what is the point of paying for it? Zhang Peng Yue tried to defend his company and said that he knows they are not too optimistic about the prospects of routers, but believe it. This is only the early stage of the internet era. In a few years, wireless network will quickly take over the market. Other investors continued that only a fool would invest in a product with such dim prospects. Another said that such a small business was too unskilled. How did they even get here? Suddenly, a voice sounded, investing. It was Yenmu. He calmly added that he was willing to invest 15 million in their company. Kun Rui, flabbergasted, tried to stop his boss and said that he was too hasty in his decisions. Think it over again. Zhang Peng, hardly believing his ears, excitedly interjected that he had said he was going to invest 15 million in the company. Yenmu confidently replied that he heard him correctly. He was very optimistic about their company. Although Xingyun Corporation does not show itself properly, but it will happen later, along with the development of the internet. He believes that Xingyun Corporation has a brilliant future ahead of it, Yenmu said confidently. Zhang Peng enthusiastically supported him, loudly exclaiming that he was right. But suddenly, the silence was broken by a harsh voice that said that this was nonsense. It was Mr. Ma Dun. He said, "Don't listen, it's nonsense. He doesn't know anything, he's just bragging. It's his first time here and he's already so cocky." One of the people here asked Mr. Ma, "Does he know him?" Madong snorted disdainfully and asked, "No. Just hearing his name makes one feel like one's ears are in mud. Is this piece of shit worthy of his familiarity?" Kun Rui, with a threat in his voice, said that they were all colleagues, so he didn't want to say too much. But he'd better not talk nonsense. Ma Dong threw in a grin. Right. If Kun hadn't mentioned it, he would have forgotten about it. He said that everyone knew that they belonged to the Lunton Company. Kun Rui went into debt and deliberately owed the workers wages. He wanted to take the subsidiary company to cash out its money, take it for himself, and then leave Jiangchen. One of the men gasped, "How could this be?" So Kun Rui and Yanmu are the same species. So Yanmu is not far behind. Madong with satisfaction said, "Kun Rui, if he had been smarter, he wouldn't have become his hound dog." Kun Rui was about to lunge at Ma Dun, but at this moment, Yanmu calmly put his hand on his shoulder, stopping him, and asked that he was sure he didn't have 15 million to invest. Ma Dong, with disdain, exclaimed that he was always sure he was right, especially in front of a piece of shit like him. He thought that he hadn't heard of a rich guy named Yan Mu, and that he supposedly bought Fuda's company. How much money did he have left? Yan Mu confidently suggested that, in that case, how about making a bet? "I bet he can invest 15 million in Xingyun right now." He bets the entire Fuda company. Ma Dong declared that he definitely didn't have the money to invest in Xingyun. He would damn well lose this bet. Yan Mu said that if he loses, he will kneel down and admit his mistake to him publicly and slap himself 3 times. About Fuda's company, he had already said so. If he loses, he will do the same, okay? Ma Dong thought that he definitely didn't have the money to invest in Xingyun Corporation. But in everything, there was always a chance of losing. His credibility and reputation might suffer. Seeing Ma Dong's doubts, Yanmu challengingly and with a smirk added, "What, are you afraid of losing?" Tong Ning, a young gentleman of the influential Tong family, came out of the crowd and said that everyone had waited here for half a day to see a good show. He can't ruin everyone's fun in a split second. Ma Dong, surprised, politely asked, "Young Master Tang, what brings him here?" Yan Mu noted to himself that the source materials for Xingyun Corporation had been bought from the Tong family in his past life. If he could get to know him better, it would be beneficial to Xingyun's development in the future. Tong Ning told them to ignore him. Ma Dong exclaimed that young Master Tan was joking. They were just having fun and didn't plan to put anything on the line, and made him think that there was something going on here. Tang Ning replied with undisguised irritation that it wasn't interesting that way. It's hard to stumble upon anything curious tonight, and when he came, it ended abruptly. Is there some kind of problem with him? Ma Dong, getting nervous, mumbled that he had misunderstood. He couldn't help but admire him, and how could he have a problem with him? They had just made a bet. Kun Rui worriedly told him to think again. Is it really necessary to make this bet with Ma Dun? Yan Mu, rummaging through his pockets, muttered, "Of course it is necessary. Where is his card?" Fang Yushui came out of the crowd and said that she advised him not to disgrace himself here and hurry up and leave. She thought that it was a joke that Yan Mu had gotten rich. Besides, Ma Dong had stopped him at the entrance. Ma Dong, grabbing Fang Yushui, asked, "Miss Fang, do you see? This loser who is only bragging can't be relied upon. Things have gotten to the point where he still refuses to admit defeat. Stop pretending that he has money." Yan Mu finally found the map. He walked over to Zhang Peng and held it out, and said that being a human is the same as being in business. The most important thing is honesty. He has money, and if he agrees to let him invest in his business, he can transfer the money right now. Zhang Peng got excited and said, "Great, he agrees to cooperate. He will get the terminal now." He thought that this young man is dressed simply, but his decisions are firm and reliable. He is trustworthy. Ma Dong suddenly snatched the card out of Yanmu's hands and loudly declared that he had overplayed his hand. "Gentlemen, a person who has 15 million in his account is going to use a regular bank card? It's just a scam." Others supported him and said that if there were tens of millions on the card, he would have become a VIP client of the bank long ago. Why is he using this ordinary card? Yan Mu calmly took the card back and firmly said, "To know if there was money on it, you have to swipe it." Zhang Pengyue held out the terminal. Yan Mu swiped the card, and the terminal displayed a message that there were insufficient funds in the account. Payment declined. Ma Dong happily said that he could once again say that he has that 15 million, and that he admires his acting skills. Yan Mu thought, Why are there not enough funds in the account? Kunrui asked in a panic. What will they do? Zhang Peng was confused, thinking that, was he really not serious? Was he just playing a joke on him? But from what he said, you couldn't tell that he was a trickster. Ma Dong cheerfully said that he was not a reckless person, and for the sake of Miss Fan's decency, just apologize to him by kneeling down and everything would be forgotten. Tang Ning, watching, said the most important thing is to be honest and willing to bet and accept defeat. Ma Dun said that since Mr. Tan said so, he couldn't go against him. Let Mr. Tang decide who is right. Kunrui exclaimed that it was just a mistake. They all know that the system can fail when large transfers take place. He'll contact the bank and ask them to send a specialist. How about it? Ma Dong said that he still had other things to do and couldn't spend much time with them here. Where are the guards? Get the guards here, quickly! Kunrui hurriedly called the bank. Yenmu calmly said that they would find out who won the bet when the bank staff came. Is he in such a hurry because he's afraid he'll be embarrassed when everyone finds out he has so much money on his card? Ma Dong exclaimed loudly that he was the president of the company, and he wasn't afraid of some kid like him. The guards approached, asking Mr. Ma what happened. Ma Dong, pointing at Yenmu, commanded, "Surround him. He will give him one last chance. If he doesn't kneel down and admit his mistake, he will beat him until he confesses." Yanmu seriously replied that it was a little early for that. Besides, he hadn't lost to him, so why should he kneel down? He thought, did he really think that he would be so easily intimidated? Ma Dong ordered that he be pressed to the ground, forced to kneel down and admit his mistake. Li Biao, standing next to Yenmu, declared that no one would dare to touch President Yen. He thought that he could fight the two alone, but it would be difficult to deal with 5 or 6 people. Suddenly, Yenmu abruptly jumped up and, in a lightning-fast movement, immobilized the 3 guards. Li Biao, stunned by such speed, exhaled, "Damn, what is this?" Ma Dong, with disdain in his voice, bellowed, "How dare he resist? He is incapable of doing anything other than just sniffing his nose." Fang Yeshui, amazed by what she saw, thought to herself, when did he learn to fight like that? Tang Ning, unable to believe his eyes, mumbled that he had killed the guards before he could even blink his eyes. Appearances can be very deceiving. Someone announced to calm down everyone. Have Mr. Kun call in a specialist. Ma Dong, trying to save face, said he still had business to attend to, and the arrival of a bank employee would not change anything. Tang Ning stopped him and asked him to wait, along with everyone else. It would only take a few minutes. His loss would only be recognized after a thorough inspection. Ma Dong grudgingly frowned and muttered that since Mr. Tang was asking for it, it was fine. But if it turned out that he had been lying all this time, he would personally finish him off. The specialist, after examining the bank card, asked, "Mister, his funds exceed 50 million? Ma Dong, stunned, countered that there was nothing in the account. How could there be 50 million? Yanmu confirmed. The specialist said that the thing is that a bank card can be frozen if there are too many funds on it. According to the rules, just need to unfreeze the account, and then they will restore service to his card. Ma Dong, in complete shock and bewilderment, could barely contain his emotions and exclaimed, "How could this be possible?" Yanmu added, "Can he do the translation right now?" Ma Dong, suspecting something wrong, asked how much he paid for this show. How could he have 50 million? The specialist, holding out his business card, replied that his phone number and mail were on it. He would give him his work number, and he could call and clarify if he had any doubts. The specialist handed him the card and said that his card had already been unfrozen, and when he had free time, he could come to the bank and order a gold card. One of the people present added that he has a friend who is not poor, so he also uses a gold card. Ma Dong roared, "This is not fair. If he doesn't invest in Xin Yun right now, he loses the bet." Yanmu, holding the card in his hand, calmly asked, "What is it that he still can't settle down?" He swiped the card on the terminal, and Kunrui exclaimed, "President Yan, the transfer was successful." Kunrui, not hiding his joy with obvious relief and satisfaction, asked, "Ma Dong still has something to say?" Ma Dun, confused, mumbled that they wanted to humiliate him and that they cheated. He can't kneel. Real men don't kneel. Tang Ning knocked Ma Dun off his feet with a lightning-fast punch, and he sank to his knees. He asked what he was doing. Tang sternly asked, "Didn't he lose?" One must admit one's mistakes. Let him do as agreed. Don't waste time. He kept hitting Ma Dun on the back. Ma Dong, slapping himself on his cheeks, howled that he was a blind dog and didn't see who was in front of him. He shouldn't have messed with him. Please forgive him. Yanmu clarified that he was sure he hadn't forgotten anything. Ma Dong replied that he hadn't forgotten anything. He kneeled down to apologize and got slapped, all as told. Yanmu asked, "What about the truth about Fu Da Company? Or is he going to put all the blame on Mr. Kun?" Mr. Kun cheerfully exclaimed, "Thank you, President Yan." Ma Dong, disgraced, confessed that Fuda had been bought, and he was jealous of Mr. Kun's good fortune, so he was babbling nonsense. Everyone around them whispered, which means that's how it really is. As Ma Dun ran away, he angrily hissed to himself that he would not forget this. He would take revenge on him. The people around him condemnedly said that this Ma Dong was a real liar. Whoever does business with him will fall into a deep pit, Hung Yue exclaimed. Thank you, President Yen, for investing in their Xinyun Corporation. They won't let him down. Yanmu shook Tang's hand and said thank you for everything, and if he needed anything, let him contact him. Fang Yushui wondered, did he really get rich? If it wasn't for his refusal, she wouldn't be standing here. The conversation with her mother yesterday came to her mind. Yushui, remember that Mr. Ma that Auntie Wang introduced her to? His brother added that today, there will be an investment meeting at the hotel, and Mr. Ma will be there too. She will go with him. Yushui exclaimed in despair that she didn't want to go. Her father angrily asked if she was the one to decide anything. There's no hope for Yanmu anymore, so they need a new son-in-law. Otherwise, why did they raise her in the first place? Yushui's mother, sobbing, added that they are not forcing her, but if Xiao Yu can't get married due to lack of money, their family will starve to death. Is that what she wants? It wasn't easy for Mom to raise the two of them. At this moment, Tang Ning, holding out his business card, said that it was fate that they had met. If he needed anything in the future, he could turn to him. The system's voice sounded in Yanmu's head, congratulating him for completing the task. He was awarded 10 life points and bonus points. From now on, 10% of his life points would be used to level up. Yanmu frowned and thought, what does this all mean? Not only is the system running his life, but it's also charging him a commission for it? Suddenly, Li Biao, in a panic, ran into the room and said, President Yan, Mr. Kun, it's not good. The workers are on strike again. Kun, frowning, asked, weren't the salaries paid? Why had this started again? Li Biao replied bitterly that the wages had been paid, but those insatiable bastards were now at the entrance of the company and were not happy that the company was changing ownership. Kun pronounced, President Yan, the new program won't start for a while yet. They can't just maintain them, can they? Yan Mu suggested that we go back to the company and see what's going on. Then he said goodbye to Tang Ning, and Mr. Zhang said, he has to go urgently. Meanwhile, inside the food building, a real fight was breaking out. The employees were shouting, the ungrateful ones had been paid every penny, so get out of here. The workers, shoving and cursing, replied that they wanted to see Mr. Kun. The wages have been paid, but there is no work. What are they supposed to do? Surely they are not going to be fired. Suddenly, one guard was pushed and fell, then stood up and pulled out his knives, shouting in rage, Damn it, don't push, he'll kill him. He stabbed the man in the stomach. The workers became agitated and exclaimed that he had stuck a knife in him. Hurry up and call an ambulance. At this moment, Yan Mu asked, what's all the commotion? Li Biao, making his way through the crowd, announced, from the road, President Yan and Mr. Kun have returned. The guard was yelling that they were paid and they're still here. If they didn't disperse, he wouldn't let them enter the building. Another guard backed him up and said if they don't want to get beaten up, leave before it's too late. Don't block Mr. Kun's path. The injured worker grabbed his stomach and groaned. Those bastards. Suddenly there were shouts that Mr. Kun had returned. Kun saw the wound anxiously and asked, who did this? What's going on here? The guard replied that they were defending his authority. Another added, Just pay him 10,000 and the case will be solved. Yanmu asked, "Did you call an ambulance?" The worker replied, "Yes, but the ambulance will arrive in about 10 minutes. He is bleeding heavily and won't be able to hold on until then." He, clutching his head, barely audibly mumbled that when the project was stopped, many of them were left destitute. Her daughter got sick, and the doctor said she needed a minor surgery, and he was left without a job. How should he pay for the operation? Other workers whispered that some workers had left to find another workplace, but it was not easy to find work in their days. The worker cried out frantically that he was not breathing. An ambulance was urgently needed. "Why hasn't the ambulance arrived yet?" Li Biao asked. "Mr. Kun, what will be done?" Kun clenched his fists furiously and ordered the two bastards to be tied up first. The guard said, "Brother Biao, thanks to his brother, no one will dare to make trouble here anymore." Another asked, "Brother Biao, what's wrong? Have they done something wrong?" Li Biao, stretching out his hands, exclaimed, "Yes. How dare they do such things after being recruited into Mr. Kun's service?" Yanmu, checking his pulse, realized that there was none. Suddenly, the voice of the system rang out that he was still breathing, but hopelessly. Death was inevitable. The thought surfaced in Yanmu's mind that if the system could control his life, then it must have a way to save the life of another as well. System, is there a way to save this person? The system said that after the upgrade, there would be resurrection drugs in the store that could be exchanged for life points. The system then showed a store where red strength, yellow dexterity, and blue stamina were available. Yanmu thought that the only three abilities available in the store were strength, agility, and stamina, and they were simply useless in this situation. Is there any other way? The system informs you that you can spend 12 life points to extend the life of a person for a few minutes until the ambulance arrives. To confirm, you need to answer, "Sure." Attention, this function can be used only once. Yanmu immediately replied, "Sure enough," he thought. How would he be different from those two scum if I just watch him die? And if he dies here, it will affect how the new buildings will be built. The system said there were 11 life points left. The worker cheerfully exclaimed, "Breathe! Help is coming!" Li Biao, throwing the culprits to the floor, said, "President Yan, Mr. Kun, these two pieces of shit are tied up." One of them uttered in desperation that they were doing it for the good of the company. "They can't do this to us." Yanmu, whose eyes were blazing with fury, asked for the good of the company? His voice was full of contempt and threat. The guard, surprised, asked was it him? "So, boy, couldn't find the money and came to beg Mr. Kun?" asked the guard with a mocking grin, approaching the young man. Kun, frowning, asked what he was talking about. President Yan? Yanmu, with barely concealed irritation, replied, "Ask him yourself." Li Biao, stepping heavily on the guy's foot, barked, "What's with the guy's grin? Speak up!" The guy, stammering from fear, said that her friend's mom lost 500,000 in mahjong and now owes them. He said he'd pay by tomorrow. The other guard added that even if this guy couldn't return the money, the girl was very beautiful. She could be sold on the black market for 18 million. Kun shouted in rage that they wanted to turn their company into a brothel? Or did they want to drive him to his coffin? His voice trembled with helplessness when he said that he knew what kind of situation their company was in. Ma Dong said that he found some way to make money and got involved. He couldn't do anything about it, but he never wished harm to people. Yanmu, whose face was distorted by rage, asked, "Ma Dong-kun," swallowing nervously, replied, "Yes, but the company now belongs to him, and the debt has been repaid." Without waiting for a reply, Yanmu punched the guy in the stomach with all his determination and strength. The workers around whispered that these two had been harassing the workers all along. Now karma had befallen them. This young man is the one who bought out Fuda's company. Suddenly, there was the sound of an approaching siren, and someone said the ambulance had arrived. The medic, pushing his way through the crowd, shouted, "Make way!" After examining the wounded man, the doctor announced that he could still be saved. "We need a blood transfusion. Make way!" Kun sighed in relief and mumbled how lucky he was to be okay. Later, turning to Yanmu, Kun awkwardly asked, what would their next actions be? Yanmu coldly replied, We need to calm down the workers first. They already have a ready-made team of workers, so manpower is not a problem. Workers, however, voiced their concerns that last time, they were not paid for 6 months. If they stay, will it happen again? Yanmu confidently stated, "Don't worry, the company will give them a labor contract with monthly payments, guaranteed job security, and bonuses at the end of the year." He remembered how his father, without a contract and insurance, had broken his leg on a construction site, lost his job, and now limped. One of the workers said that they only sign contracts with decent workers. If they don't fulfill the conditions, they are fined and the case is referred to the Public Security Department. Another added that if this is the case, they can't fool them, Li Biao said doubtfully. This was the first time he had heard of ordinary workers being signed into contracts. Under such circumstances, the company would collapse sooner or later. Yanmu calmly replied that without it, the company would come to an end much faster. Li Biao added that he has money and talent, but you can't do something so reckless. Look at the company he invested in today. Now this one, is he in over his head? Turning to the bound guards, Li Biao asked, "By the way, what to do with these two?" Kun said, "Look at Director Yang, he's all business. We need to preserve the company's reputation. We can't let this incident be known." Yanmu said there are more workers injured today. The company should cover their medical expenses and make sure it doesn't happen again. Kun assured and confidently said he would see to it. He promises there will be no problems. Yanmu nodded and said, "Okay, then he's leaving." Kun ordered Li Biao to take the master home. Yanmu refused and said there was no need. He would walk home by himself. Kun looked at him and said he was a very determined guy, better than him in many ways. Wait till he shows himself. He'll definitely change his mind about him. Just trust me. Walking up to his house, Yanmu thought to himself, had Mom and Dad already returned? Opening the door, he saw Meng Yao. She asked, Yanmu's brother, why did he come back so late? He replied that the company had some problems that needed to be fixed, so he was late. Meng Yao, looking at him intently, said that she had noticed that he had started working twice as hard. Is it because he's going to marry Yu Shui and wants to get rich? Yanmu stroked Meng Yao's head affectionately and said, "Don't talk nonsense. He would take her somewhere tomorrow." He thought to himself that Meng Yao's dream was to live in a big house. Now, finally, he would finally be able to realize that dream. Meng Yao, full of curiosity, asked where exactly. Could he tell now? He smiled and said that she would find out tomorrow. It's late now. Get some rest. Meng Yao, alone with her thoughts, reflected that these 2 days, Yanmu was not himself. He seemed to be a completely different person. Yanmu wondered if the Moon Eye God system controlled his life and could prolong the life of others. Does it have any other functions? He looked at the symbol on his hand and asked himself, or is this it? The system suddenly said the environment was safe. The main user logged in. Suddenly, Yanmu was in a different place. The system asked if the user carrier was ready to accept the legacy. Yanmu looked around in surprise, not believing his eyes, and asked, "The legacy? What kind of legacy?" He looked down and saw his reflection, and said that was him before he was reborn. The system explained that the carrier's rebirth caused the collapse of time and space. The survival points that the bearer spends every day also keep time and space stable. The main user must accept the divine legacy, or the world will be destroyed. The world will be destroyed. Yanmu was stunned. The system said, "Prepare to accept." A spatial gap appeared. Yanmu exclaimed that he wasn't ready yet. What the hell is going on? The system explained that the system level is limited, and once the legacy is accepted, tasks will no longer be issued for the user. Yanmu thought to himself that this cursed system had been plaguing him from the beginning. The system announced that the legacy was transferred successfully, and asked to check the user's personal panel. Yanmu was surprised, asking the question, wasn't the transmission finished? Why is the progress only 1%? The system replied that ways, dexterity, and strength are at level 3. Obtaining all legacy abilities is temporarily unavailable due to the lack of basic user characteristics. Yanmu grabbed his head and said, "What an absurdity! But as long as he is alive, he has time to deal with it." Meanwhile, Meng Yao flocked outside the door, thinking that it was already past noon and Yanmu hadn't gotten up yet. Is he that tired? She went inside, and Yan-mu asked Meng Yao. She said resentfully, "Didn't he say he wanted to take her somewhere today?" He stroked her head and said cheerfully, he had almost forgotten about it. "We'll be going soon." They went to the luxury real estate district in Jiangcheng. Seeing a familiar face, Meng Yao exclaimed, "Oh, isn't that Yu Shui?" Noticing that Yu Shui was heading to the hotel, Meng Yao became alarmed and asked if they were going to the hotel. Yu Shui didn't seem to agree. What about her? Yan-mu, ignoring this, took her hand and said that it was her choice. She had nothing to worry about. Meng Yao asked, "What happened to the two of them?" He interrupted her and said, "Don't say anything. We have to go see the house first. Otherwise, the sales department will close down." They were greeted by an employee who said, "Hello, gentlemen," yawning. "Are they here to see the house?" She added that she didn't think he could afford a country house and suggested looking at a small apartment over there. He could make a down payment and pay the rest later. Yan-mu firmly stated that he wanted to see the country house. Meng Yao whispered that it was the property of the Shentianji Corporation. "The house is too expensive. Does he really want to buy it?" He replied that he wanted to give her a country house as a gift. Didn't she dream of living in a big house? Meng Yao looked at him in surprise and asked if he would gift her a house. The employee asked with a contemptuous grin, "Does he know the price of houses? Is he sure he wants to buy from them specifically?" Yan-mu firmly replied that he was sure. Meng Yao grabbed his hand and whispered that maybe they should leave. A female employee, noticing their clothes, wryly remarked that the clothes they were wearing weren't worth 200 yuan, and they wanted to buy a house? Meng Yao angrily replied, telling her not to dare talk to Yan-mu like that. She pulled him towards the exit, saying to Yan-mu, "There's nothing to see here, let's go." Suddenly, someone called out, "Yan-mu, is it you?" The stranger exclaimed, "What a coincidence! It's really him! He can't believe he's met him." Yan-mu extended his hand to Xu Fei for a handshake, greeting him. Xu Fei, however, ignored the gesture, pulling his hand away. Yan-mu's former classmate, a young but experienced businessman, remarked with a touch of irony that he had not changed, recalling how his family had once lived in poverty, buying clothes at the market and wearing shirts for several years. Yan-mu frowned and asked what Xu Fei was doing here, while mentally noting that if memory serves, Xu Fei had opened a small business but went bankrupt after a few years. Xu Fei replied with an arrogant smile that he had decided to buy another house, adding that he was not advised to buy a small-sized apartment, as he might be ashamed of such a choice later. A sales associate supported his words by emphasizing that a house symbolizes status, and living in a small apartment, a person would be inferior to those with a country house. She cited Xu Fei as an example of a young, talented businessman. Xu Fei, blushing slightly, said that he only had extra money. Xu Fei looked at his watch and turned to Yan-mu, offering to discuss something. He asked if he was in a hurry, and added that he needed to choose a house first. Yan-mu waved his hand indifferently, and said that he could go and not detain him. Meng Yao snorted, unhappily commenting on Xu Fei's behavior. The sales staff member continued, turning to Xu Fei, suggesting that he look at an exclusive house with good conditions and location. Yan-mu, telling Meng Yao that he was going to go make an important call and would be back soon. He stepped back, mentally thinking that a pack of mutts allows themselves to look down on people. Meanwhile, Xu Fei, pulling out a bank card, told the employee that he did not need information and decided to buy a house, ready to pay right now. The employee, astonished, asked if he was really buying a house for 2 million. She estimated that if the deal went through immediately, the commission would be a few thousand yuan. Xu Fei frowned and asked if there was any problem. He thought that Yan-mu had always been better than him in everything, popular with the girls. Finally, he has a chance to prove that he will never be compared to him. Noticing that Meng Yao was standing alone, Xu Fei approached her, asking with a caustic tone if Yan-mu was scared and ran away. Suddenly, Yan-mu returned, walking over to them, and replied that he was just going to buy a house, and Meng Yao needed to wait for a while. Xu Fei, with a chuckle, inquired which house Yan-mu was planning to buy, offering to help choose. Then he suddenly changed the subject, asking if Yan-mu's father was still working at the construction site. Let him come to him. He'll have less work, and he'll pay him a few hundred more. It's a pity they have to live like this. he wants to help out. Meng Yao vehemently objected that if he had money, he could afford to talk to people like that. Uncle Yan earns money through his own labor, and he is no better than him. Xu Fei, nonchalantly, replied that he was trying to help, and in society, the last word is always for whoever has the money. Yanmu coldly said that he appreciated his kindness, but if Xu Fei continued like this, he shouldn't be surprised by his neglect. Xu Fei disdainfully replied that he was trying to help, and Yanmu was trying to educate him, adding that he didn't need to listen to this nonsense. The employee grudgingly said that Yanmu just can't afford this house, so she's trying to divert attention. Xu Fei spat on the ground and asked, "Isn't there any security here? Take him out as soon as possible. Otherwise, he will start to doubt buying the house." At this moment, a bank employee appeared, holding out a gold card to Yanmu and congratulating him. Yanmu nodded, noting that the employee had come a long way. The employee expressed that it was an honor to work with him. The manager ran into the hall and asked unhappily, "What's the commotion? Hey Jen, what's the matter?" The staff member pointed at Yanmu and said that this person couldn't afford a house and was only wasting their time. Yanmu calmly took out his bank card and asked, "You say I can't afford it?" The manager immediately bowed deeply and said, "Sir, I'm sorry. She's very sorry for causing him so much trouble. She will now serve him personally. Does he have any preferences?" she asked. The employee, outraged, asked what was going on, stating that he had only come to cause trouble. The manager explained to Yanmu that her employee had not shown proper respect and was a bit out of sorts. Xu Fei abruptly swiped the card near the manager and said that he was the key customer. She should give him respect, not him. The manager, noticing Yanmu's gold card, asked, "Mr. Xu, can't he see that Mr. Yan has a gold card?" Xu Fei, after examining the card, replied with a sneer that it was a fake. After all, he was a VIP customer of the bank. However, upon taking a closer look, his face changed and he exclaimed, "Where did he get the SVIP card from? Did he steal it?" Yanmu ignored him, calmly pondering that he remembered the two country houses in the Golden Zone. He thought that in a few years, their value would increase, and a good profit could be made. Calmly, without excitement, he asked the manager what the price of the two houses in the center was. The manager did not hesitate to reply that both houses cost the same 10 million yuan. Yanmu held out his gold card and confidently declared that he was taking them. Meng Yao was surprised and couldn't believe her ears. The employee, noticing the luxury of the card, suddenly changed her tone, saying, "Sir, she will help him formalize the transaction." Yanmu asked with slight displeasure. She saw the map and fussed. The formalities would be handled by anyone but her. The manager, realizing the seriousness of the situation, said that she would personally help Mr. Yan make the transaction. Agen, as of tomorrow, she will no longer be working here. Xu Fei, still stunned, hugged Yanmu and said that he didn't expect him to rise like this, and asked if he wanted to have a drink with him. The manager, without wasting time, pointed to the exit and told me to get him out. The guards quickly came up and told him not to resist. Xu Fei, trying to somehow take back the situation, excitedly asked why was he silent? Would he really just watch him get kicked out of here like this? Yanmu replied with a smile. Wasn't he the one who was going to order the guards to take him out? Xu Fei, trying to break free, shouted out, "Didn't he apologize to him?" The guards, without reacting to his words, said, "Stop talking nonsense. He should come with us." Then Yanmu activated his system and asked, "System, what about the ability to see fate? How to use it?" The system replied that the basic skill allows you to see the fate of people or things, and someone who has the skill can use it to find valuable resources. Yanmu reflected that he would now be able to see other people's fate whenever he wanted. These skills are clearly useful for decision-making. Yanmu looked at him and saw a dark glow. Xu Fei angrily asked, "Who does he think he is? Come to his senses, and maybe they can still have lunch together." Yanmu looked at him coldly and replied that Xu Fei should be careful because his aura had turned black. If he didn't change his behavior, it would soon be too late to repent. Xu Fei, unable to contain his anger, shouted that he was the one who cursed him and added that no matter how much money he had, he would still remain a commoner. Yanmu calmly replied and said that he had already thought that not all was lost. The employee, sensing her mistake, approached the manager with her head down and said that she realized her mistake. She asked for another chance. The manager replied sternly and said, "Don't say another word. Go to the finance department and let her get her salary paid." The employee, trembling and bursting into tears, fell to her knees and begged to be hired back because her father had been ill for years, and if she lost her job, he would die. Meng Yao, seeing her despair, quietly said that she was really sorry. Yan Mu intervened and suggested to give her another chance to improve. No one has it easy now. The manager replied that just because Mr. Yan asked, she would give her a chance. The employee, in deep gratitude, said thank you Mr. Yan for forgiving her. She will definitely become a better person. Yan Mu looked at Meng Yao and wondered, Meng Yao's fate has a golden color. Does that mean she will live a happy life? Suddenly, 2 ants entered the hall. One of them, noticing Yan Mu, said admiringly that he was a very nice young man, generous and magnanimous, and asked if he had a girlfriend. She added that she could introduce him to someone. Another ant mentioned that she had a daughter almost the same age as him. Yan Mu, hugging Meng Yao, said, "Thank you, aunts, but here is her girlfriend. He brought her here to buy a house." Then he quietly added, "He doesn't want to go on a blind date, Meng Yao. Play along." Yan Mu saw that Meng Yao had turned away and asked her why she was blushing. She blushed even more and replied that it was fine. At this moment, his phone rang. Yan Mu looked at the screen and frowned when he saw Fang Yushue's name pop up on the screen. An irritated Yan Mu abruptly interrupted the call. Meng Yao, watching this, frowned and thought, "What's wrong?" Suddenly, his phone vibrated with a message from Fang Yushue, saying that she was at the Shengda Hotel, room 606. Save her. Meng Yao's heart sank, thinking that Fang Yushue was here with Ma Dun against her will. Anxiously, she informed him that she didn't know what had happened between them, but Yushue was in danger. If he didn't save her, he would regret it. He coldly replied that it was none of his business. Meng Yao exclaimed at what he was saying. It would soon be too late. Yan Mu started to say something, but he was interrupted by the girl, telling him not to worry and go save Fang Yushue, promising to wait for him here. Yan Mu quickly ran out of the store, shouting one last time for her not to go anywhere. At this time in room 606 of the Shengda Hotel, Ma Dong smirked as he undressed, noting that she was skinny, but she turned out to be strong and exceeded his expectations. Fang Yushue retreated, begging not to be touched. Her eyes opened wide in horror and filled with tears. Ma Dun grabbed her hand, telling her that he was rich and powerful, and that she should be pleased, for her family had introduced them for a reason. She, sobbing, begged him to let her go. He smiled mockingly and asked that she had agreed to accompany him and now she was playing innocent. With force, he threw her on the bed, tearing her clothes off, and asked, what was the pretense? She had agreed to it herself. Fang Yushue screamed in despair. Suddenly, the door opened. Ma Dong turned around and asked who was there. Yan Mu stood in front of him, filming the scene on his phone. Dumbfounded and flustered, Ma Dong exclaimed how he had even gotten here, to which Yan Mu calmly and confidently replied that it didn't matter since he had already captured all of his actions. Ma Dun jumped up from the bed, asked who he was, allowed and demanded he give him the phone. He immediately lunged at Yan Mu, but the latter reacted lightning fast, swiftly striking him, and Ma Dong ended up on the floor. Shivering in pain, Ma Dong hissed, how dare he hit him? Now he would not only sleep with her woman, but also rip his throat to feel all his anger. Yan Mu, without showing the slightest regret, stepped on him and demanded him to repeat his words. Ma Dong gritted his teeth and roared that a scum like him would never get a woman, no matter how hard he tried. Another powerful blow made Ma Dun wail in pain and beg Yan Mu to stop, admitting his guilt and asking him to let go as he was afraid for his face. Fang Yushue said that she was so embarrassed. Completely shivering and sobbing, she made Yan Mu more and more uneasy, and he guessed that something had been slipped into her food or drink. Yan Mu gently lifted Fang Yushue in his arms and said that he would carry her to the bathroom to bathe and sober up. Leaving her in the bathroom, he said he was leaving, and if anything happened, let her call him. Ma Dong, running away, angrily thought that this little brat had called out to him. Let's see if he can save her next time. But Yanmu caught up with him, stopped him with a kick in the butt, and asked him where was he going to go. Ma Dong gritted his teeth and hissed that you could hit him, but it wouldn't prove anything, and you should think twice. Yanmu calmly asked, has he already forgotten how he dragged Fang Yuxue here? He has the proof. If he is not afraid, he can leave. Ma Dong, clenching his fists, rode. What the hell does he want to do? Yanmu, keeping calm, asked that he thought he could buy a girl with money? But what would he do if he posted the video camera footage? He thought to himself that justice should be served, and a little money from Ma Dun wouldn't be superfluous. Ma Dong asked, blackmailing? Is he conspiring with Fang Yuxue? He won't be able to extort money from him. Yanmu, shrugging his shoulders, replied, okay, Director Ma. Then let him not regret his decision when he goes online tomorrow. Ma Dong asked that he believes that the rooms in the Shentian Hotel are under surveillance, and the manager will give him the video camera footage. He's lying. Yanmu nonchalantly took out the key card and said that he wouldn't believe it, but he was well acquainted with the hotel manager. Ma Dong darted his eyes and asked where did he get the emergency card from. Yanmu looked at Ma Dong with a smile and asked, what is it, Director Ma? Did you change your mind? It flashed through his mind that how good it was that Manager Yan had given him this card. Ma Dong, visibly alarmed, asked how much he wanted. 5 million was enough. He thought that if those videos or photos got on the net, he would be finished. At this time, Fang Yuxue, who was taking a shower and digesting what had happened, heard Yanmu's stunned exclamation. 40 million? Ma Dong, in a suppressed voice, mumbled that he didn't have that much money. Is 30 million enough? Yanmu nodded and said, okay, 30 million. I hope Director Ma keeps his word. Otherwise, the world will see these photos. Fang Yuxue came out of the bathroom. Yanmu, turning to Ma Dong, asked, he hasn't left yet? It seems that 30 million yuan is not a problem for him. Ma Dong, fleeing for his life, shouted that luck was not on his side today. Let him think he won, you puppy, but time will tell. Yanmu asked, came to his senses. Fang Yuxue, still trembling, whispered, thanking him for today. Yanmu, disregarding her words, replied, you're welcome, and said he was leaving this place. Fang Yuxue grabbed his hand and asked, is it true that he wants to invest 15 million in Jin Yun Corporation? He looked at her incomprehensibly and asked that wasn't she the one who had witnessed him transferring the money? Where did he get so many? Where did he get them? Fang Yuxue asked. Yanmu questioned that money is more important to her than feelings? If she loves big money, why did she still stay with him? As he left, he tossed over his shoulder that it was safe here now. She'd come home on her own. Back in the sales and real estate department, he approached Meng Yao and the manager. Meng Yao looked up and asked, has he gotten over it yet? Yanmu smilingly said yes. He added that it was largely thanks to Manager Yang. The manager bowed her head and said that he was a key customer for her and Shengtian Enterprise, and she was happy to help. Yanmu, stroking Meng Yao's head, asked if she had been waiting. Meng Yao, blushing, replied slightly, it was just that the end of the workday was coming up, and Manager Yan had to keep her company. He handed her the card and told her that he would pay first then and finish the other arrangements tomorrow. It would take too much time. Meanwhile, in Ma Dun's office, people were treating his wounds. Ma Dun, cursing profanely, shouted the bastard, can he treat normally? One of his men asked him, who did that to him? They will find that person and make him answer for everything. Another added, who could have done this to him? They'll find him. The guard treating the wound muttered that it was that Yanmu again. How long can he mess things up? This time he hurt Principal Ma. Ma Dong groaned in pain and shouted, hurt, you dumbass! He gritted his teeth and hissed that he couldn't hurry. He had to take care of the Fan family first. He must see this street girl. He wasn't done with her yet. Looking at his watch, Fang Yuxue's father frowned and asked it was getting late. Why hadn't Yuxue still returned? The mother shrugged her shoulders and replied that that was good. It confirmed that Mr. Ma liked her and he had left her for the night. At this very moment, the door opened loudly and Fang Yuxue appeared on the doorstep, tired, and said Mom. She came. The mother, overjoyed, met her daughter and asked how everything went with Mr. Ma. It was so late, she thought that she would not return today. Yushue, clenching her fists, replied that it had not worked out. Why? The mother asked. Tears sprang from Fang Yushue's eyes, and she said that she had been drinking wine with Ma Dun all night, and he had put something in her glass. Then he had taken her to the hotel, and almost, but Yan Mu had saved her. Father crossed his arms on his chest and asked, Yan Mu left her and now decided to cause trouble. What does he want? Fang Yushue replied that he seems to have changed a lot and invested 15 million at the event. She also heard that he bought a real estate company. The mother, pondering over what she heard, said thoughtfully, It seems that he has succeeded. They definitely cannot lose such a good son-in-law. Fang Yushue lowered her head and quietly said that she and Yan Mu had parted ways. The mother, taking her daughter by the shoulders, stated firmly that she forbade her to say so. He had money, and she must return it. At the computer club, one of the security guards watching Xiao Yu play exclaimed in admiration that his level was astounding. Is he really a professional gamer? Xiao Yu replied that he was just an amateur. He couldn't be compared to professional players. Don't be modest, the guard replied. He's clearly playing at the highest level. He offered to play one-on-one. Xiao Yu hesitated and said that it was a little late. The second guard put his hand on Xiao Yu's shoulder and said that he had been watching him for half a day, and his game was simply incomparable. Play once. Another suggested that the game itself is not interesting, so the loser will buy everyone a pack of cigarettes. The winner will be called Beatty. Xiao Yu shrugged his shoulders and agreed, and said, Let it be as you wish. He thought to himself, what else is there to be honored with such a title? After 2 hours, Xiao Yu lost. The guard said that there was no need to attach importance to winning or losing, so don't worry. Xiao Yu stood up, but the guard blocking his way asked, Brother, are you leaving already? You need to keep your word. Xiao Yu, stammering with anger, asked, What did he say? Let her stay out of his way. He cursed himself and thought such bad luck, so also a girl demanding money from him. And now these two. The guard following him asked threateningly, Going against the rules? He'll deal with him. And at the same moment, the guard, without a second's hesitation, swiftly approached and struck a sharp blow with unexpected force. At home, Yan Mu staring at the system screen and said that he received points for buying a house. But yesterday, again spent one, as he thinks life points are getting fewer and fewer. This fraudulent system. The system nonchalantly replied that it had already extracted the life points needed for the improvements, but if the carrier continued to purchase real estate, there should be no problem. Yan Mu, frowning slightly, asked to upgrade something. How many life points do you need? The system responded that updates occur according to the desires of the host, but the updated system is independent. The host needs to pay attention to their thoughts. Pondering for a moment, he said slowly, in accordance with his wishes. Suddenly the phone rang. Yan Mu grudgingly muttered, Fang Yushue again? When he picked up the phone, he heard Fang Yushue's voice, saying that his aunt had a matter to attend to. What's the matter? Yan Mu asked, suspecting that this Fang family was up to something else again. The woman said he wanted to take Yushue as his wife, but she had 2 conditions. First, he must give them all his bank cards. A married guy doesn't need money. Secondly, when he enters the family, he will become a member of the Fang family. No matter what problems the Fang family has, he should always help them and not say no. If he does these things, he will be able to marry Yushue. Does he have anything to say? Yan Mu, after thinking for a while, replied that there was only one thing. Mother Yushue said softly, Then speak, but think it over. Yan Mu, without waiting for her words to finish, and feeling the anger building up inside, loudly declared, Go to hell! The next day, Yan Mu and Meng Yao returned to the sales department. Manager Yang held out the contract and smiled, and said that the contract and all the formalities were in order. Meng Yao frowned, asking what's wrong with him. Manager Yang has been standing like this for a long time, and he's been ignoring her. Yan Mu, slightly confused, quickly lowered his gaze, and faintly blushing, said apologizing. Manager Yang waved away, said it's no big deal. Does Mr. Yang need to check the documents again? No thank you, replied Yan Mu. Manager Yan added that they are always welcome, and if he has any questions, he can contact her at any time. Stepping outside, Yenmu noticed a familiar face, and he, slightly surprised, asked Fang Yushui. Fang Yushui, also surprised, replied, "So you are here." He asked why she was looking for him again. He thought that he had lucidly explained to them why the Fang family would not rest. Fang Yushui said in a breaking voice that Xiao Yu had hit someone in the computer club and was now being asked for 500,000 in compensation. Yanmu, walking beside her, coldly said that these problems of his brother did not concern him. Fang Yushui grabbed his hand, said that they can go to the hotel. He wanted to get closer. Now she agrees. Yanmu abruptly pulled his hand away and said that he liked Fang Yushui, who respected herself and had boundaries. Not Fang Yushui, who was willing to sell her body for money. Tears flowed from Fang Yushui's eyes, and she said, "Xiao Yu is still in the computer club, and their family can't earn so much money. She really doesn't know what to do." Yanmu angrily said that he could help her, but he had one condition. In the future, the Fang family will not bother him anymore. Fang Yushui desperately whispered that they were her family all she could find him. Yanmu turned around and left, after throwing over his shoulder that in that case, there was nothing more for them to discuss. Ming Yao, walking beside her, asked, "Is he really not going to help? She looks very sad." Yenmu seriously said he wasn't going to, and what does Xiao Yu have to do with him? Meng Yao stopped and carefully looked at him quietly, saying that he hadn't been this cold before. She added that although she didn't know what had happened between them, she had no choice but to come to him. Did he really have no feelings left for her? Yenmu replied that the feelings had completely disappeared in his past life. He thought that there was really nothing she could do about it. Xiao Yu constantly bringing trouble on herself, just fine. After thinking for a while, he told Meng Yao to go home, and he would go to this computer club. Meng Yao said anxiously to be careful. Yanmu angrily thought while clenching his fists. He had beaten the crap out of them. Let them just wait. Meanwhile, in the computer club, the beaten Xiao Yu was shouting from his last strength to hit all the money they would not get from him. Xiao Yu, with despair and rage in his voice, exclaimed that they had set him up. One of the guards, seeing the beaten Xiao Yu, said that he had been beaten all night, and he only reacted. The other pulled out a knife and hissed that it was his family's fault for incurring the wrath of Director Ma. If they don't get the money for him, he will cut off his finger. Suddenly, a man came to the door of the club. The caretaker did not raise his head and mumbled, "Who? It's closed today. Come back another day." Yanmu walked closer. The caretaker, startled, shouted, "What did he say that today is closed? Is he deaf?" Yanmu didn't waste any time and knocked the caretaker to the ground with a lightning-fast punch, saying, "Stay out of my way." After entering the club, he saw a crowd of people surrounding Xiao Yu. When they saw Yanmu, they whispered in surprise to Yanmu. Yanmu, kneading his fists, confidently said, "There are so many people as I stretch out." After swallowing the candy, Yanmu mentally noted that he had exchanged 3 life points for a pill of strength with ease should defeat this brat. Xu Fei shouted that her sister must have called. "Give them the money. Don't pretend to be all powerful." One of the guards added that, speaking of which, he still owed him $500,000, $1 million in total. He would let him go if he brought the money. Why should he bring money? Yenmu asked, clenching his fists irritably. Xiao Yu, in despair, shouted out, "Stop wasting time! No wonder his entire family disliked him. Let him do something. Let him carry the money." Yanmu angrily hissed that he had better shut up. The guard, clutching his knife, said warningly, "Don't move. Stay where you are." But Yanmu, in a split second, pushed the guard away, and he flew towards the computers. One of the surrounding people mumbled in surprise, "What the?" A crowd of guys surrounded Yanmu, shouting, "Everyone follow him." The guard, hastily dialing Ma Dun's number, informed him, "Yanmu is here." Yanmu, after dealing with the attackers in a flash, threw them to the ground. Xiao Yu mumbled in shock, wondering where he had learned to fight like that. He thought that meant there was no ransom to pay. Then he could take the 500,000. Rising up, Xiao Yu, with a threat, said that he couldn't have come earlier. Because of him, he had been suffering here for so long, Her mom would find out about it. If he doesn't want her family to find out, then have her kneel down and apologize to him immediately, and then give him the ransom. Yanmu, with undisguised disdain, asked, "Kneel down, give the ransom?" Xiao Yu hissed even more threateningly, or else he would tell his sister to find another man. Yanmu, unable to bear it, slapped Xiao Yu and angrily asked who did he think he was. He said that if her sister hadn't begged him to help, he never would have intervened. Suddenly, a voice sounded, wondering where he was going. Yanmu looked back in surprise and saw Ma Dun. Madong, giving the order, growled, "Grab your weapons and beat him to death." He thought to himself that, of course, the guy from the Fang family was the bait. Yanmu, after assessing the situation, thought that there were too many of them. If he fought, he would be killed. At that moment, the voice of the system sounded in his head, saying that according to the needs of the host, the system had exchanged the life points for a dexterity pill. After swallowing the pill, Yanmu mentally scolded and asked what was he doing, making an exchange without his permission. Dodging the blow, Yanmu felt a surge of incredible agility and was relieved to think it had passed. Ma Dun exclaimed, "He doesn't know how to fight? Fight back! Some clown is not worthy to be Ma Dun's opponent." But Yanmu suddenly got behind Ma Dun and said that he was rejoicing too soon. Ma Dun, dumbfounded, hissed, "How did he do that?" When he looked back, he saw his men lying motionless. "How is this possible?" he whispered, in utter despair. Yanmu kicked Ma Dun, and he fell to the floor. Yanmu walked over and stepped on his face. Yanmu said with a slight grin on his face. It seemed like he was saying that he would kill him. Madong gritted his teeth in pain and growled that he was focusing too much on him. Thinking that he couldn't take revenge on him, Yanmu calmly replied that he seems to be right, but there is no way he is the one who can get behind him, is there? Madong groaned in pain. Yanmu coldly said that he had wasted a lot of time on him. How was he going to make up for it? He thought that these 2 pills were worth a lot of life points. Madong shouted out in desperation that he would pay 20 million. "Just don't beat him," contains parents and children. Yanmu let him go and said, "Well, there is a bank in the neighborhood. He still owes him 30 million. Let him bring the whole amount." A few minutes later, Yanmu's phone received a message that 50 million yuan had been transferred to his account. Ma Dong, grabbing his injured arm, mumbled, "What? Transferred the money?" Yanmu nodded and said, "Okay, he will go." Ma Dong, cursing to himself, thought that sooner or later he would get his 50 million back. Leaving the computer club, Yanmu asked Xiao Yu, "Will you go home by yourself?" Xiao Yu hissed with hatred as he memorized all the suffering he had made him endure today. Yanmu asked ironically, what was it with his savior? If it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have let him go. Xiao Yu muttered that if he hadn't provoked them, he wouldn't have been beaten up like that. Yanmu cut Yanmu off and added, "Get out of here, you lowlife." Xiao Yu ran away and shouted that when he came back, he would tell his parents and he would be in trouble. He finally left, Yanmu sighed. He told the system to show his life points. He asked, he just got 50 million, so why hasn't the number of life points changed? The system responded that since these millions were not a legitimate source of income for the carrier, they were used as a resource for renewal. Yanmu hissed with irritation that he thought he could willfully buy pills and now take possession of his life points. The system nonchalantly replied that it is designed to keep the carrier in good condition. When the system is successfully upgraded, the carrier will get more benefits. What advantages could he give? Turning him into a woman, shouted Yanmu. Meanwhile, in the Fang family, the mother indignantly asked what use she was. She still hasn't established a relationship with Yanmu. Is she going to tolerate his brother getting beaten up at the computer club? Fang Yushui, lowering her head, whispered, Yanmu broke up with her. What could she do? Xiao Yu opened the door and said, Dad, Mom, he is home. Mother anxiously asked why he came back so suddenly. Xiao Yu asked, Aren't you glad to see me? The mother replied softly that she was very happy to see him. What's wrong with his face? Xiao Yu shouted indignantly that this trashy Yushui had called Yanmu to pay the ransom, but he had only caused more trouble. Fang Yuxue asked in surprise that Yanmu had really come to save him. Zhao Yu pointed at his cheek and said that he had beaten him up. The people who grabbed him were not as cruel as Yanmu. The mother hissed indignantly. How could he beat him like that? Is too much. Pushing his mother away, he asked, what did they know where he got the money from? He swindled it from Ma Dun. The mother turned to Fang Yuxue and asked, is he telling the truth? She thoughtfully replied that it was most likely. When Yanmu came to rescue her last night, she thought she heard that he had asked Ma Dun for 30 million. He used you to make money, his mother hissed angrily. You can't call him a human being. He's just an animal. Fang Yuxue resolutely said that she would go and find out from him right away. She thought to herself, was this the real reason why he was with her? Yanmu sighed as he lowered his head, thinking that it was so cruel this system didn't have a heart. Meng Yao, noticing his depression, asked why he had come back upset. Had he been offended? He shook his head and nervously said, no. Then he added that nothing is wrong. Meng Yao, eat quickly. Meng Yao worriedly asked, what is he still thinking about Yuxue? Is there anything he doesn't want to tell anyone? He can tell her. Fang Yuxue suddenly appeared, her face flaming with anger, and she shouted loudly, what does this mean? Meng Yao hesitantly asked why she was here. Wouldn't she like to have dinner together? Yanmu said, don't pay attention to her. She can't sit here. What does she want? He thought to himself that she was here knowing that he came here often to eat. Fang Yuxue slammed her fist on the table and shouted that he had beaten up her brother and was now sitting here with another girl. He makes her sick. What does that mean in the end? Yanmu calmly asked, what did Zhao Yu say that? Meng Yao, her girlfriend she didn't know? What was it that made her so angry? Fang Yuxue said a girl is a girl. Well, let me ask you. If you were going to save Xiao Yu, why did you beat him up? Is it because she rejected him? He's upset, so he takes revenge on his brother, then finds a girl who's not as good as her to piss her off. Yanmu, in turn, angrily asked if she was sick. She said that he didn't want to save Xiao Yu because that money is dirty. He doesn't have any money of his own. Yanmu smilingly said, say what you want, but remember, no matter whether he is a bad person or not, he will never spend a penny on their blood-sucking family. Bloodsuckers exclaimed, Fang Yuxue. Meng Yao anxiously wondered what had happened between them. Fang Yuxue pointed at Meng Yao and asked, do you think he is a good person? He just broke up with her and already has another one. He is more disgusting than her. Yanmu angrily replied enough, then asked, so what if he is with someone else? She thought he would never forget her. The world does not revolve around her. And if she believes the nonsense his brother is talking, then please, but leave him alone. Fang Yuxue said that he never took her seriously. He only wanted to use her. Yanmu asked that she no longer understood where the truth and lies were. Fang Yuxue, preparing to slap her, tearfully asked, why did he do that to her? Yanmu, grabbing her hand, exclaimed that they had already separated, so don't let her go crazy. She wrenched her hand away, exclaiming that she heard him and would make him regret it. Meng Yao said to follow her, but Yanmu stopped her and said he just scared her sorry. Meng Yao calmly replied nothing, but Yuxue is definitely no longer related to that person in any way. Yanmu smiled and said, don't worry about her. She is probably thinking about how to get back at him right now. Meng Yao thought to herself, Yanmu is such a good person. How could Yuxue treat him like this? Hurry up and eat. Once you finish, he will take her home, Yanmu said in a soft tone while looking at Meng Yao. In the evening in the office, the general manager said Mr. Yan thanks to him. The previous projects that lacked funds have already started making profits from today. Yanmu, printing out the letters, smiled and said, here is finally some good news for today. After looking at the documents provided, Yanmu frowned and said that he remembered that the company does not have a specific supplier. Why are such low-quality materials used? Zhang Peng hesitantly explained that in order to guarantee the quality of the current products, they used new materials. However, due to the low profit margin, the supplier's material did not pay off, and he refused to cooperate. Yanmu thought and thought, this is a big problem. He did not notice it right away. Zhang Peng continued, what is more, in the inspection test, only the mechanism, There are not too many requirements for the materials, so he said if they send someone to the communications company to sign a contract, they will definitely need a router. Zhang Peng suddenly exclaimed, "How did he not think of this? Communication companies have to deal with a lot of information every day. Don't they need routers to transmit the signal?" He added sadly, "But the material." Yen Mu interrupted him and told him to leave it to him. He would find a suitable partner very quickly. The next day, while looking at the Tang family's business card, Yan Mu wondered if this was the best option for Xin Yun. Suddenly, his gaze fell on the scene going on nearby, as the girl desperately tried to break free, screaming, "What is he doing? Let go!" The man grabbed her arm and hissed, "Shut your mouth." Yan Mu recognized the girl and thought it was A Jen. Didn't she work in the sales department of Blue Current? How did she end up in the bar? The surrounding people started to get indignant and say, "Let the girl go, or they would call the police." The man pulled out a knife and hissed, "Mind your own business if you want to live." They made a fuss in broad daylight. Yan Mu quickly ran up and grabbed the man's hand and grudgingly asked, "What are you saying?" The man, frightened, trembled and asked, "Director Ma and him ordered this girl?" Yen Mu angrily asked, "Ma Dong again?" He and Ma Dong are almost like relatives already. Clutching the man's hand tightly, the man cried out in pain, "Hurt, brother. He was wrong. Take her away." Letting go of the man, Yen Mu said with a threat in his voice, walking away and not to see him again. The girl thanked him. He asked her if she wasn't left at work, why was she at the bar? She explained that she was on vacation, but since her father's condition had worsened recently, he needed money for surgery, and she had taken a part-time job. "Does she know Ma Dong?" Yen Mu asked, looking at the girl's face in surprise, waiting for her answer. The girl replied that she did not know him. When he first saw her here, he offered to be his keeper. She refused, but he kept pestering her, and if it wasn't for him today, "Don't thank me, you better go home and rest," Yan Mu said. The girl bowed and hurriedly left. Taking out his phone, Yen Mu called Li Biao and told him to find someone to follow Ma Dun. He should be in the hospital. Meanwhile, in the hospital room, Ma Dun said he did everything she asked about the bar. Maybe she'll sit closer to him already. Fang Yushui calmly asked, what was he so anxious about? Yen Mu had just taken a bite. The show hadn't started yet. Ma Dong anxiously asked, what should he do if she miscalculated? If Yan Mu found him, he would only suffer great damage from her games. Fang Yushui smiled and said that she was the one who was helping him take revenge. Yi Yan Mu has a deep affection for her. If she apologized to him, he would definitely show mercy. Fang Yushui dialed Yen Mu and said that she would like to invite him to eat at the restaurant. She admitted that she had behaved unworthily and wished to apologize. She assured him that he could consider it a last meeting. Fang Yushui suggested that they meet tonight at the same restaurant where they first met. Ma Dun remarked to himself that she was not only beautiful, but also intelligent. She ended the phone call and said that's it, settled. Now it's up to A Zheng. Taking a sleeping pill, she said that after the case was over, she would ask for 30 million yuan, and he would also get what he wanted. She said it was a mutually beneficial cooperation. Yan Mu realized at home that there were two people plotting against him at once. He turned to the system and asked how many life points would it take to upgrade. The system replied that it would take about 20 points. Yan Mu then clarified, how many points could be obtained for 30 million points? The system replied that 10 million could be exchanged for 10 life points. 30 million was enough to upgrade the system. He asked if 100 million yuan is 100 points. Then how many points did the system secretly take away from him? After deciding to take advantage of this opportunity, Yan Mu decided to upgrade the system to know its limits. He instructed Kun to find out some important information that might be useful to him the next day. In the evening, Yan Mu arrived at the restaurant. Upon seeing him, Fang Yushui gestured happily to the table and said that she had already ordered his favorite dishes. Raising her glass, she offered a drink to reconciliation and apologized again for the past incident. The system immediately warned Yan Mu about the sleeping pills in the wine, adding that due to his innate resistance to poisons, the dose was not a threat. Realizing that Fang Yushui was serious, he pretended not to suspect anything. Fang Yushui thought, why is he not drinking? Has he guessed? Taking a glass, Yenmu calmly drank the wine and said, "Let the past be the past." Fang Yushui tried to elaborate and said that she didn't expect it to come to this. She fantasized about what their life would be like after they got married. However, Yanmu coldly replied that after the wedding, her family would only pull money out of him for Fang Xiaoyu until they had squeezed all the juices out of him, even to the point of death. Fang Yushui, stunned by his words, recalled Ma Dun's assurances about the instantaneous effect of the medicine and couldn't understand why Yanmu didn't faint. Yanmu asked, "Isn't he right?" Fang Yushui said in bewilderment. "But he is his only brother." He asked, "Does their family have a throne that he will inherit?" Yenmu thought, "How long will this last?" Fang Yushui, trying to justify herself, said that he was the only brother. Shouldn't he be honored? Didn't Ma Dong say that this dose was enough for 3? She thought in confusion. Suddenly, Yenmu passed out. Fang Yushui touched his shoulder and asked him how he was. She mockingly said, "Thought he was smart? Tomorrow, everything he got from Ma Dun would be hers." A few hours later, Yanmu woke up naked in the bed of the bar. He tiredly closed his eyes and just thought, "Damn." Azhen saw Yenmu and couldn't hold back her emotions. Her eyes flashed with rage, and she shouted, "Bastard!" Yanmu, surprised, exclaimed that he had dinner with Fang Yushui yesterday. How did he end up here? She explained that she had received a message from him the night before, asking for a meeting. Thinking that was a strictly work-related matter, she had not expected such brutal treatment. With tears in her eyes, she confessed that she thought he was a good person. Yanmu tried to comfort her. To himself, he grinned and thought, "If you want to play, let's play." Azhen appeared in the cafe and walked over to the table, said Director Ma. "Miss Feng, she has come." She reported back and said she did everything to their specifications and took a couple pictures. Fang Yushui, satisfied, said, "Very well, then she is free. She will find her when she needs her." Azhen nodded and said, "Yes, Madam Fan." Fang Yushui let the girl go, but asked her to keep the pictures, warning her of the consequences of their disappearance and the effect on the outcome. She paused and added with a threat, lest she forget that her father was in the hospital dying. The girl assured that she would take care of the pictures. Ma Dun admiringly remarked that Madame Fang's fortitude was remarkable. He didn't expect her to be capable of such a thing. He admired it even more. Fang Yushui stated that Yenmu was the first to cross the line, and all she is doing is reclaiming what should belong to her. Ma Dun added that if it is for Fang Yushui, no 30 million is spared to him. He has no claims. Fang Yushui, confident of success, announced that Yenmu would pay for what he had done today. But malice sparkled in her eyes, and she mentally added that she would make him feel what it was like to be used. In the hotel lobby, Yenmu frowned his eyebrows and looked at Fang Yushui. His voice sounded calm when he asked what she meant. Ma Dun, lighting a cigarette, said that Yenmu did not understand the gravity of what he had done, and they were here to bring justice. Yanmu calmly replied that he was a law-abiding citizen and had not violated anything. Fang Yushui accused him of having dinner with her and then going to the hotel with another girl. Ma Dun, claiming that the girl had acted against her will, threatened to call the police, but on condition of pleading, promised to save Yanmu's reputation. Gladly, he noted the presence of reporters, emphasizing that publicizing the incident would end his life. Yanmu became angry, his gaze as cold as ice. He calmly, but with obvious disdain, asked if they took him for an idiot. Fang Yushui suddenly tensed up and noticed that the reporters were taking pictures of her and Ma Dun. Ma Dun started to threaten and say he was ungrateful, but Yanmu interrupted him, asking him to answer the phone. Azhen, by phone, said evidence of threats by Ma Dun and Fang Yushui had been posted on the internet. Ma Dun, panic-stricken with a pale face, looked back at the gathered crowd and stammered out, "What's going on?" One of the journalists present read a report about Ma Dun's company's financial problems and his huge debts, and another about his crimes against women. Ma Dun shouted about falsification and conspiracy. The reporters did not relent, surrounding him with questions saying that the revelations were false and asking if he had evidence to refute them. They asked Director Ma about his views on Luntang's future, and asked Ms. Fan about her relationship with Ma Dun and what kind of person she considers him to be. The system informed Yenmu that Luntang's shares had plummeted and the company was bankrupt, adding that an auction would take place. Yanmu remembered how a few hours ago, A-Jen had confessed to him that Mr. Yen, Ma Dong, had promised to give her 500,000 yuan to frame him, or else he would threaten to kill her father. They were the ones who set the whole thing up. He looked at her seriously and asked, now he had enough evidence to put Ma Dun away for half a life. Is she going to help him or Ma Dun? Satisfied with what was happening, he said that he would take over Ma Dun's company. He thought to himself that without the system, they would have gotten their way. Fang Yushui, torn between anger and despair, shouted out that Yanmu was cruel. A black flame appeared on her forehead. 2 days later, the news broke the disturbing information that the owner of Lunton Company, Ma Dong, turned out to be a suspect in large-scale corruption and money laundering. Yesterday, the company filed for bankruptcy, and an auction was immediately announced. Fang Yushui, hiding her face in rage, shouted, demanding that the cameras be taken away, saying that she did not know Ma Dun. The reporter, wasting no time, continued with assertive questions, clarifying whether she and Ma Dun had threatened other people, and whether it was done voluntarily. Another accusation was made. Ma Dun is suspected of money laundering and threatening other people. Meng Yao, upon learning of the scandal, expressed her concern that she thought Yushui was cheating but didn't expect her to. Meanwhile, Yanmu, sensing the tension, asked the system, where are his life points for Lunton Company's real estate? Yanmu said regretfully, the system is forever postponing the life points. No morals. He irritatedly thought, no notifications. What's the mystery? Suddenly, an unexpected signal appeared on the screen. The system update has been successfully completed. Yanmu was stunned when instead of the expected answer, the system produced a rabbit. He said, what the hell? Where did the rabbit come from? He, frowning his eyebrows, raised it grudgingly, saying, is this what they give you after upgrading? Where is his hottie? The rabbit suddenly disappeared, as if it was swallowed by the air itself, leaving only a surprised Yan Mong. But a girl appeared in his place and looked at Yanmu and said, the host is so impatient. The rabbit is the main part of her. How could he reject her? The girl cheerfully asked, well, carrier, are you satisfied? If he is satisfied, the system will give positive feedback. Meng Yao, with anxiety in her voice, loudly asked if he had seen the news. Yanmu, unable to hold back, shouted at her not to come in. She disobeyed, and as she opened the door, she said that she hadn't expected Yushui to turn out to be such a person. She always thought he was the one who made the mistake. She saw the scene before her, her face flushed with embarrassment, and fainting, she whispered quietly, I'm sorry. Yanmu, irritated and angry, asked, could she not have been faster? The girl, holding back, replied, carrier, don't be angry, she didn't realize. Yanmu, sheltering Meng Yao, calmly said that she had just fainted from shock. It was no big deal. The girl gently touched her head and said with annoyance, okay, it'll be okay now. Meng Yao, opening her eyes, anxiously asked, who is she? She is Yanmu's system, replied the girl. She has just arrived. She can call her Xiao Yue. Please take care of me. Meng Yao, still confused, nervously asked Yanmu, what's going on? Is she still sleeping? Meanwhile, at Fang Yushui's house, her parents were discussing the recent events. Her mother said that she had done a great job for the past 2 days. They had finally raised enough money for a wedding gift for Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu, puzzled, added that these 2 days the reporters were hanging around their house. Thanks to them, they had earned $1 million. But what to do next? Father, seriously thinking about it, replied that Ma Dun was now in jail. He could no longer be their feeder. Yushui, she needs to find someone else they can pull money from. Fang Yushui thought furiously, why should she do this? She hates it all. Suddenly, a black light emerged from her head and spoke, and said, girl, you want to make a deal? The creature, identifying itself as a deity, stated that it had heard her request and was ready to grant her wish. Fang Yushui shook her head and doubted the reality of what was happening, whispering as if to herself that it couldn't be true. She must be hallucinating. The creature, not losing patience, continued with a soft insistence that he understood her distrust. To prove his power, he offered a bargain. The voice changed as it reminded her of her traitorous ex, who had used her feelings for his own gain, leaving only pain and disappointment. The creature then asked, "Isn't she angry? Don't you hate him?" Fang Yushue's answer was sharp and firm. "I hate him." Hearing this, the creature offered to make a contract fulfill its terms and get what it dreams of. Without hesitation, Fang Yushue agreed. Her voice trembled, but was filled with greed and desperation when she said she wanted countless amounts of money. At this time, Zhao Yu rudely asked, "Why is she silent? Is he asking her what they should do next?" His words sounded accusatory, but Fang Yushue, instead of answering, stared at him with such anger that he involuntarily tensed up. "Why is she looking at him like that?" he muttered. Then, frowning, he added that if she wasn't so useless, they wouldn't be in this position like this. At this point, their mother intervened. She grabbed Fang Yushue's hand, as if trying to calm her down, and said conciliatingly, "Yushue, his brother is still young. Don't be angry with him. What she just told her, let her think about it better." Fang Yushue gloomily looked at her mother and squeezed the words of bitterness in her throat and asked a question. She was the one who gathered that information and passed it on to her, right? She did it for the sake of the family. The woman recoiled, shocked by her guess, and whispered to Yushue she had guessed everything. Meanwhile, Yanmu looked thoughtfully at Meng Yao and told her everything he knew, and said that this was the way things were. His words confirmed the truth about traveling through time and space. Meng Yao, wide-eyed, said in surprise, which meant that it was indeed possible. Xiao Yue, smiling demurely, added that one should not forget that such travels always have a price. Noting that Yanmu had become a full-fledged wage laborer of time and space, experiencing tremendous work pressure, he got up and said he had to go. He would come back later and tell her more. Xiao Yue asked where he was going. He, throwing a glance over his shoulder, replied not to worry them. He was just meeting Tang Ning to pick a car. Meng Yao smilingly asked him to come back soon. But before she could finish speaking, Zhao Yue suddenly leaned over and kissed her on the cheek. Meng Yao stiffened. Then her eyes slowly closed, and she fell back into a deep sleep. Yanmu grabbed Xiao Yue's arm in a rage and asked, "What did she just do to Meng Yao?" The girl, remaining calm, replied that she had only substituted her memories. Ordinary people shouldn't know too much, or it could be dangerous. His indignation flared brighter when the system took away a life point. He exclaimed, "So why did she deduct his life point when she was using her abilities?" Xiao Yue tilted her head slightly. Her voice sounded almost cheerful when she said, "How does he propose to do otherwise?" Suddenly, Yanmu cried out from the pain that pierced his arm. Looking at it, he thought, "Does materializing the system carry side effects?" Xiao Ye, noticing his distress, explained that she had just arrived and the system had just activated. It's still unstable, so there might be some minor bugs. Yanmu only exhaled tiredly. "Damn," she asked, "doesn't the carrier already have to go?" "She wants to go too, so let her take her along." Yanmu firmly replied that he will go alone, and he and Tang Ning have some business to discuss. When he said he would go alone, Xiao Ye frowned and reminded him that if he moved too far away, the system would automatically move her to him. Yanmu, after imagining this situation, realized his helplessness in this situation and agreed. But suddenly, Zhao Ye's expression changed. Her gaze was filled with anxiety. She whispered, "Why did the seed appear so early?" As they approached the meeting place, Yanmu noticed that she looked pensive. He wondered why she was so distracted. Her unusual state hadn't left his thoughts since they went out, and he wanted to understand what had happened. Xiao Yue replied that she was doing well. She explained that she was thinking about how she could improve the carrier's ability level to avoid having to take pills. Yanmu frowned and asked why the pills. He said there was no need for it, for in most cases, with ordinary people, pills were not necessary. Xiao Yue asked what he would do if the person turned out to be not quite ordinary. Yanmu thought about it, and said that if there was anything she could do, then let her try. Anyway, he didn't have many life points. When they arrived at the meeting place, they were greeted by Tang Ning and said Mr. Yan. He made a slight bow, and, apologizing for the delay, expressed his respect and reverence. Yanmu noticed another person joining them. It was Liu Jie, who put his hand on Tan Ning's shoulder and, casting an appraising glance at Yan, asked if Jiangcheng City really had such a low level. Yanmu turned to Tan Ning, wondering who this person was. At the same time, he pondered how it could have happened that a person from the Liu family, known for selling fake alcohol, was here and in Tan's company. Tang Ning, clearly dissatisfied, dropped Liu Jie's hand and briefly explained that it was indeed Liu Jie from Wanjiang City. Liu Jie, irritated by this reaction, said he has come a long way to cooperate, but sees that he is being treated without proper respect here. Tang Ning, remaining calm, recalled that he had warned Liu Jie about his busyness that day, but the latter had insisted on meeting. Yanmu walked closer with a smile and apologized for his behavior. He greeted Liu Jie, however, a little mockingly, added that he first thought that he was Tang's driver. Yan's words caused Liu Jie to have a fit of anger. He raised his voice, asking that he was the driver. If he doesn't care about his eyes, he can gouge them out. However, Yanmu, remaining outwardly unperturbed, shook Liu Jie's hand and hoped that this could be considered a misunderstanding that was not worth continuing. Liu Jie smiled coldly, hinting that facing someone like Yan was not new to him. There was no need for him to bicker. Xiao Ye, sensing that the situation was escalating, became alarmed. She suspected that Liu Jie was absorbing his luck energy. To distract Yan, she flirtatiously reminded him that they were going to see the car, weren't they? And there was a movie waiting for them tonight. Let's not waste time, shall we? Yanmu realized that he had indeed almost forgotten about these plans. With an apologetic smile, he confirmed that he was ready to go and invited Tang Ning to follow him. Tang Ning said with a smile, of course they had agreed. Liu Jie, feeling ignored, expressed his dissatisfaction. He accused the people of Jiangcheng of lacking manners and emphasized that he had not expected such an attitude. Tang Ning discreetly replied that the city was small enough and Liu Jie would easily find his way on his own. These words caused Liu Jie's anger to surge again. He asked, Tang Ning he dare to chase him away? He added that if he wished for the Tan family to disappear, it would only take him one night. Yanmu walked closer and placed his hand on Liu Jie's shoulder and confidently reminded him that his family had no such authority in Jiangcheng, especially if the facts related to the sale of fake alcohol became public knowledge. What would his family be able to do then? Liu Jie was shocked by what he heard and was even speechless. He could only ask how Yan knew such details. Yan, turning around, replied that it was best not to do things that could hurt if you didn't want to be found out. After Liu Jie left, Tang Ning approached Yan, offering his help in choosing a car. Yan thanked him for his attention, but mentioned that he had already looked at one option, although he wanted to evaluate others. Watching them leave, Liu Jie, seething with anger, vowed that he would find a way to remove Yan from his life forever. In the evening, Yanmu, smiling and shaking his hand, thanked Tang Ning for helping him today. Tang Ning replied that without Yan's help, he would hardly have been able to get rid of Liu Jie's pressure so easily. He warned Yan to be careful, as Liu's methods were very dangerous, and some of his competitors had disappeared without a trace. Yan nodded, assuring that he would take these words into consideration. Before leaving, Tang Ning promised to think about the possibility of cooperating with Xin Yun and reply to Yan in the near future. When they parted, Xiao Yue looked anxiously at Yan and confessed that she had something important to tell it. Xiao Ye informed Yanmu that the seeds had entered this world. Yanmu asked in surprise, Seeds? Xiao Yue explained that the seeds from another time and space, endowing people with abilities and then sprouting. The abilities would be similar to the carrier's skills. Skills? What happens when seeds sprout? Yanmu inquired. Xiao Ye continued that the seeds would eventually take over time and space. Time and space have no overlord to fight, so the earth will become a purgatory. Yanmu wondered, no overlord? Perhaps the divine inheritance he received was passed down by the deity of time and space? Yes, but the overlord disappeared after restoring time and space. However, there were many cracks left behind, giving the seeds an advantage. Life points alone is not enough to maintain the stability of time and space, Xiao Yue replied. She added with certainty that Liu Jie had seed parasites and absorbed his luck by shaking his hand. He is afraid that fortune will soon stop smiling on him. Suddenly, Yanmu's phone rang. Why is his father calling? He found out that he broke up with Fang Yushui, he thought. Yes, Dad, replied Yanmu to the call. His father said that he and his mother were coming home and they had guests waiting for them. When will he be home? Yanmu replied with a smile that he had just finished his work and he would be home very soon. An hour later, he arrived home. Mom, Dad, he's home, said Yanmu as he entered the house. Dad asked why he brought the rabbit. Putting the rabbit on the floor, Yanmu replied that he had bought it on his way here. He thought it was cute. He thought to himself with relief, it was good that she could turn into a rabbit. Otherwise, it would have been difficult to explain to his parents. Suddenly, Yanmu's younger sister, Yan Xiaoju, came running in and took the rabbit in her arms and exclaimed, Daddy, she wants this rabbit! Yanmu was surprised, and to himself, he thought to himself that this had happened later in his past life. When he entered the living room, he saw his uncle, Yan Zhuang. Yanmu, long time no see, he's so mature, exclaimed his uncle. Yanmu's mother asked, with a slight note of excitement in her voice, if he remembered his uncle and his cousin. Yanmu cheerfully replied, how could he forget his uncle? Thinking to himself that he remembered his father because of the winnings, Uncle remarked that he seemed to be doing well, driving such a luxurious car. Yanmu replied as he sat down that he was just a small employee. The supervisor allowed him to take it. He will return it to the company tomorrow. His superiors seemed to be very optimistic about him, allowing him to drive such a car, Uncle remarked. Uncle added that he heard a few days ago that he is cooperating with Xin Yun. Do you know the director of the company? Yanmu countered that he knows, but his job is only to communicate. Even just getting to know such a person is a sea of prospects, my uncle went on to say. Turning to Yanmu's father, he said that in truth, that's not why he's here. Yanmu's father said that they were listening to him attentively. The uncle began that he had good news. A promising investment project had recently appeared, and he immediately thought he should tell them. Since Yanmu is cooperating with such a big company, meanwhile, Yanmu's younger sister, Yan Xiaoju, was playing with the rabbit with genuine delight. My father said that he knew where their family was, so let's forget about it. Uncle assured that, no need to worry, if he invests 100,000, he will earn 150,000 in 1 month. There are no risks yet. He tried it. The father asked his wife, is it possible to make that much money? Why don't they try investing 20,000? Uncle said you need at least 300,000. Didn't he win a prize? Let him decide. He guarantees that he can double his income. Then he turned to Yanmu and said to persuade his parents, this project is very competitive. Yanmu shockedly asked, persuade? He is not going to even try. Investing is impossible. Leave, Yanmu stated firmly. At that moment, the rabbit, finally tired of the persistent caresses, suddenly swung his paw and hit the girl hard in the face. Uncle, exploding, bellowed, what the hell is going on? What is he doing? Father turned to Yanmu worriedly. How can he talk to Uncle like that? Uncle abruptly put down his glass and exclaimed that he was trying to teach him how to make money. Even if he doesn't want to join, how can he kick him out? My father put his hand on my uncle's shoulder reassuringly and said, if the project is really worthwhile, he is willing to invest. Don't worry. Yanmu confidently declared that if he gave the money, he would not be able to return it. Suddenly, a relative they hadn't spoken to in 10 years showed up with such a good offer. There's something fishy going on here, don't you think? Uncle slammed his fist on the table and roared that if it weren't for family difficulties and the dire need for funds, he would have invested himself long ago. Why would he have come here? He would be poor all his life. Annoyingly, Yanmu demanded to say clearly, what happened to their family? Which company is behind the project? And what is the project number? If he couldn't say, he would take his daughter and leave this place. He thought to himself, show your true colors. Uncle uncertainly muttered that family troubles are not discussed outside the house. The project is secret. If he doesn't invest, he won't say anything. Yanmu calmly said, is that so? He will help him because his Yanwu got involved in dirty deeds, abusing a girl. Now he needs 300,000 or Yanwu will die, right? Uncle, completely confused, whispered confusedly, "But how?" Father asked, "Brother, is it true?" Suddenly the girl screamed, pointing at the rabbit, and said that this rabbit was hurting her. The uncle quickly walked up to his daughter and asked, "Zhaoju, what's wrong?" The girl shouted, "Kill the rabbit! She will eat its meat!" Looking at the rabbit, the uncle hissed, "How dare she hit her daughter? He would make stew out of her." He tried to grab the rabbit, but it struck him lightning fast with its paw. The man screamed, "How painful! He's going to finish her off." Yanmu calmly sipped his tea and said that this rabbit was very smart. If he were them, he wouldn't mess with her. He added that it's funny that you couldn't get the money out and take your anger out on the rabbit. As he left, he shouted that they would live a life of poverty. Their place was at the construction site. Yanmu said, "Be careful, uncle." My father sighed and said that he had not expected this, that a stranger's soul is a dark place. My mother added that they only get stupider with age. Yanmu said that nothing in this world can be achieved easily. They should be more careful. Meanwhile, at Fang's house, Fang Yushui informed her mother that 300,000 had been transferred to her account. His mother was surprised and said that Zhao Yu took the money to buy a car. She hadn't seen him so happy in a long time. Where did she get the money from? Fang Yushui replied that she met an aspiring entrepreneur, young and rich, with 2 apartments. He said their family could live there without paying rent. The mother excitedly asked if he was on the list she had given her. Their family finally doesn't have to live in that ruined house. Excited, his mother pulled out her phone and, typing a message, said she wanted to tell his father the good news. Closing the door and leaning against it, a shadow emerged from the darkness and hissed that this is the kind of deal they have. It's easy, isn't it? She remembered the man from yesterday who said, "Mrs. Fan is so casual, much more beautiful than he thought." Suddenly, the shadow whispered that all she had to do was lean close to him and he would do the rest. The man, holding out the card, said he couldn't stop thinking about her. He has a lot of money. This 300,000 yuan is a gift for the first meeting. Shadow, with a bitter chuckle, leaned forward predatorily and asked, "Well, did she want to continue?" Fang Yushui confidently replied yes, thinking to herself that her family needed the money and was willing to continue cooperating. In the evening, Kunrui, entering Fuda's office, said that the work on the East District site had officially begun. Looking at the girl standing next to Yanmu, he asked, "Mr. Yen, who is this?" The girl waved and said hello. Yanmu replied that it was her new secretary. "Is there anything else?" Kunrui, holding out the document, said, "Someone wants to buy Ma Dun's company for $1 billion. Take a look." Yanmu thought about the fact that Ma Dong's company was located in the center of Jiangcheng. At the auction, no one wanted to buy it, and now there was a buyer with such a favorable offer? He replied, "Fine. It's the center of town now, but where it will be in a few years is unknown." He thought to himself that in a few years, the center of the city would shift. The popularity of this place would drop. A good opportunity to make money and get rid of the company. Kunrui said, "Mr. Yan, there is still news from the black market. There will be an auction today." Yanmu asked in surprise. "An auction?" Kunrui explained that it was mainly selling feng shui jewelry there. There were several ways to make money, but he didn't have any money. He hadn't been there, but he had heard from his colleagues that there were some really good things being sold. Yanmu asked, with a slight smile on his lips. Where was the black market itself? The next day, on Taihe Street, Yanmu noticed that it was no different from an ordinary shopping street. A black market could be in a place like this. Xiao Yue replied that it had been a long time since she had gone shopping. She was going to do a lot of shopping today. Suddenly, a man came up and asked, "Gentlemen, are they here for the auction?" Yanmu asked how he knew. The man explained that every store on Taihe Street has an entrance to the black market, and usually few people come here just to walk around. The old man would show them the way. With a wink, the man added that he would make sure that they wouldn't be cheated. Yanmu thanked him. The man went on to say that the 3 cities of Jiangcheng, Wangjian, and Yangjiang are connected here underground. All walks of life buy random stones, antiques, and so on here. Yanmu said that he didn't expect to see such a big place underground. The man clarified that they are on site. The auction will take place there. but will not open until the evening. The man quoted a price of 2,000. Yenmu thought with annoyance that the black market was really not a place where ordinary people could come to. The man counting the money said he sees he is a nice person, so he recommends trying the game of buying stones at random first. Have a good understanding here. If you want to buy something at auction, you better find a middleman. Then he removed himself. Xiao Ye, looking around the market, said, "Carrier, the smell of seeds here is very strong." Yanmu noticed that the black market is a place to make money. It is full of money lust. No wonder he attracted the seeds. Xiao Yue thought that it seems the seeds are spreading faster than expected. They approached the crowd and heard a voice asking if they had thought about their choice well. The boy exclaimed, "They're liars!" The boy, thinking, thought to himself that the two stones had the same weight, shape, and material. How to choose? The man pushed up and said quickly, "Choose! This is the last chance." He can't beat her. The Xiao family's property will go to him. Yanmu, observing, thought that the ability to earn money allows him to discern the jewel inside the stone. The one glowing red appears to be a ruby. The man announced, "Gentlemen, the heir to the Zhao family has made his choice. Place your bets. Double your money, place your bets." The excited spectators started betting and saying that they bet 10,000 on Liu. The Liu family will win. Zhao has been losing for 2 months and is about to lose again. There's definitely a gem there. Liu's victory is assured. The auction organizer announced that 200,000 have already been bid on Liu. Let's keep bidding. Increase the bid tenfold. The young man, Zhao Chen, trembling, thought that the Zhao family only had 2 million left. If he loses that, there will be trouble from his father. The organizer, seeing that the bets were only on Liu, asked, 300,000 on Liu. No one will bet on Xiao? Xiao Chen knelt down, mentally apologized to his father. Suddenly, Yanmu resolutely stepped forward and announced in a loud, confident voice that he was betting 300,000 on Xiao. The organizer surprisingly interjected. What did he say? If Xiao loses, he will pay 2 million for him. Yanmu calmly replied, only 3 million. He didn't spare 3 million for the Xiao family. The organizer stood up and announced that there were no more bids. Let's go see what's inside the stones. He thought to himself that Mr. Liu had ordered it a long time ago. There is no better stone on the black market. Xiao Chen will lose. Xiao Chen, turning to Yanmu, asked, Sir, is he a newcomer? These stones are fake. There are no good goods here. Yanmu asked with confidence, What is he afraid of? He is willing to bet and lose. If he doesn't have enough money, he will help. He has nowhere to put his money. At the stone appraisal shop, the expert examined Liu's stone and announced that the green jade is medium-sized. The estimated price is about 500,000 yuan. The man smugly said, Okay, now let's open Zhao Chen's stone. Be careful, don't mess it up. The master nodded. The man turned to the girl and said, Beauty, don't waste your time on this player. Even if he has money, he will go broke. The girl, grinning slightly, asked with a confident look of ruin, What does it matter? The expert, after scrutinizing Xiao Chen's stone, exclaimed in amazement that there was something in it that was a ruby. The man exclaimed that it was impossible. The master cracked the stone, confirming his words, and said it was a ruby the color of pigeon blood. Xiao Chen asked in astonishment, A ruby the color of pigeon blood? The man whispered in panic that it couldn't be. Yanmu asked what it meant. The girl explained that the pigeon blood-colored ruby was an extremely rare stone of the highest quality. The starting price is at least 1 million. Zhao Chen confirmed that she was right. The price was incredibly high, even for such a small piece. The surrounding people sighed regretfully and said, Damn, lost money. Heir Zhao is a true guru, Yanmu asked, satisfied. It didn't seem like such a large amount. Card or cash? The man, with annoyance, replied that the price was small, by card. He thought to himself that he remembered his handsome face. Yanmu said that with this ability, he could not worry about money. The girl got excited and said that they would celebrate tonight. Zhao Chen caught up with Yanmu and shouted, Master, wait! Yanmu stopped and asked what he wanted. Zhao Chen extended his hand and said that his name was Zhao Chen. If they're going to auction, he can do it. After hesitating, he apologized and said he forgot he wasn't from around here. It was probably impertinent of him. Yan Mu shook his hand and said, "Hello, Mr. Xiao. His name is Yan Mu. He is the first in the black market. If it's not too much trouble for him, he can take him to the auction." Zhao Chen got excited and said that he was glad to meet him. He was going to auction the ruby. You can count on him. Yan Mu thought that these people called him a gambling guru and Zhao's heir. It seems he is not so simple. In the VIP lounge, Zhao Chen thanked Yan Mu and said, "Mr. Yan, thank you very much for your trust." Yan Mu replied that he didn't look like a liar. Xiao Chun took out a black card and said that it was fortunate that he had this card. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to participate in the auction. Yan Mu asked what kind of card it was. Xiao Chen explained that it was status that mattered in the auction, not identity. In the black market, there are only 3 black cards corresponding to the 3 major powers. The holders of these cards can enter and exit freely. One of the forces is the auction itself. Another is a mysterious organization related to the main force. And the third is the Xiao family, passing down the map from generation to generation. Zhao Chen continued that in the past 2 years, the Liu family from Wangjin suddenly wanted to gain a foothold in the black market, and the Zhao family helped them. But for some reason, they snapped at them. And this is the situation today. Xiao Ye, with a note of surprise and suspicion in her voice, questioned, "Is it the Liu family from Wangjian? Young Master Liu Jie?" Zhao Chen, noticing Xiao Ye's expression, clarified with slight surprise in his voice if she knew him. Yan Mu replied that they didn't know each other very well. They had only met once. The registrar asked Heir Xiao, "His ruby has been appraised. The color is excellent. The starting price is 5 million. He needs to confirm it again." Zhao Chen replied, "No, it will go to the auction tonight, so pack it up." He thought to himself that the starting price is 5 million, and the deal could be at least 100 million. The Zhao family has hope. An hour later in the auction room, the masked hostess introduced the lot, a large blue and white vase from the Ming dynasty, presumably from the house of a high-ranking official. The starting price was 20,000 yuan. Zhao Chen asked that he didn't seem to be interested in such things. Yan Mu replied that he had come to the black market for work and to see if there was anything interesting at the auction. Zhao Chen, looking through the catalog, noticed that today, other than cultural relics and antiques, only his ruby was worthy of attention. The host hit the table with a hammer and said 300,000. The Ming dynasty vase has been sold. Yan Mu looked at the vase and realized that it had a dark energy. It would bring bad luck. The host announced that they now had a very special item. There hasn't been anything like it on the black market in years. A ruby, the color of pigeon blood. Absolutely natural color. Incredible quality. This is definitely a top choice for collectors. The starting bid is 5 million. A man whispered Mr. Liu that it was Xiao Chen's ruby. The stakes began to rise, with people saying 6 million, 10 million. Liu Jie stated that the old man saw the picture of the ruby. He wants him to get it. The man said that if the old man wants it, he would just go to Zhao Cheng and get it. Ignoring him, Liu Jie shouted out, 60 million! Yan Mu said in surprise. Liu Jie said, Liu Jie? The other bidders, frustrated, muttered that if young Mr. Liu bid, is it worth it to continue bidding? The value of this gemstone clearly exceeds 100 million. Suddenly, Yan Mu loudly announced, 70 million! Xiao Chen became agitated and said Mr. Yan, he can't take things away from Liu Zi. Xiao Yue calmly interrupted him and said that it didn't matter, just let him observe. Liu Zi thought, isn't this the yen from Jiangcheng? What did he forget in the black market? The man said that this was the guy who bet 300,000 on Xiao Chen. Liu Zi grinned evilly and exclaimed, 80 million. He thought to himself that he was interesting, so let's play. Zhao Chen got nervous and said that Liu Zi is bossy and never gives up. He probably didn't even think of buying this stone for such a price. Yan Mu confidently stated that he didn't need to worry, he would make him pay, and proudly shouted out, 180 million. Liu Zi did not hide his indignation and sharply shouted out that he was poor How could he have so much money? The presenter, holding the attention of the audience with her confident voice, loudly announced that the ruby was the color of pigeon blood. 180 million. Liu Jie raised the bet and said 300 million. The man anxiously said, Mr. Liu, they don't have that much cash with them. Yanmu noticed with a chuckle that Mr. Liu was so bold. He began to methodically raise the bet, prolonging the fight. The tension in the hall was growing with every second. The price of ruby was rising rapidly. Xiao Chen whispered that this price far exceeds the real value of the ruby. Further bargaining will be stopped by the auction. Liu Zi, in desperation, shouted, 1,200 million! He asked if he could raise the bet. The hostess announced, 1,200 million. Yanmu said with an ironic smile that Mr. Liu was so generous that he would give him this ruby. The host repeated, 1,200 million. 2! She banged the hammer on the table and announced that a blue blood-colored ruby for 1,200 million. Sold. The man in a panic said, Mr. Liu, they don't have that much money. Liu Jie calmly replied that bank cards were invented for that purpose. An hour later, in the trading room, Liu Zi furiously asked, What did she say? The transfer is rejected? The girl asked if he wanted to make sure again. If he didn't pay, according to the rules, the Liu family would be expelled from the black market. The annoyed Liu Zi thought that he had succeeded every time. Why didn't it work today? Shadow explained that the person who was betting against them was stronger than him, and his strength was limited. But he didn't feel the aura of his divine messenger. He must still be very weak. When he got rid of him, he would be fine. The girl explained that according to the rules, with large sums, 3 days are given for fundraising. The ruby is reserved for him. Liu Jie, keeping calm, said, Well, there must be a problem with his bank card. He would pick up the ruby in 2 days. Meanwhile, outside the black market, Xiao Chen heaved a sigh of relief and said, Thank you, Mr. Yan. This is such a relief. Yanmu calmly replied that he and Liu Jie had a small introduction. Nothing serious. Xiao Chen expressed that he was worried that Liu Jie would not pay the debt. He would pay a small amount and take the item as he had done after many auctions. Yanmu asked, Is such a thing possible? Xiao Chen confirmed, indignantly saying that yes, but everyone just seemed to turn a blind eye to it. All of a sudden, Liu Zi appears and says that he has been pulling such tricks on his family. Because of this, they are now in this position. Xiao Chen angrily remarked that young Master Zhao had a sharp eye but no talent. Liu Jie asked, Didn't Tongning warn him that people who try to oppose him end badly? Xiao Chen said, Mr. Yan, let's retreat. Liu Jie is able to make them disappear. Yanmu, covering Xiao Chen with his body, told him not to worry and he could leave. Xiao Yue said, Leave it to him. She thought to herself that now she could clearly see that this seed had a weak aura. The probability of it affecting the host was very low. She was worried for nothing. Suddenly, Liu Zi swung around and pounced on Yanmu and said that he was the first person who dared to oppose him. But Yanmu instantly dodged the punch and retaliated, saying that he was talking a lot. Xiao Yue felt a strange sensation and fearfully asked, What's going on? Shadow shouted, How painful! Kill him! He can't be left alive! Liu Zi, shocked, hissed, How dare he hit him? Yanmu, accumulating strength, said that he has contacted someone who doesn't even have a physical body. He seems to be afraid of me. A thick darkness enveloped Liu Zi's body, and he roared that he would kill him and take away all his abilities. Yanmu immediately attacked and asked that with such weak combat power, wasn't he speaking too loudly? The shadow, squirming in pain, shouted, Kill him quickly. His strength is weakening. He can't take it anymore. Liu Zi, through clenched teeth, hissed that it was impossible. How did he get the divine messenger? Who is he? Yanmu raised his eyebrows and interrogated with obvious surprise. Divine messenger? Li Biao happily exclaimed that he didn't seem to know anything. Let him show himself, and they would talk. He can tell him all the secrets of the envoy. If he eats a high-level envoy, his strength will double. Yanmu instantly punched him in the chest and said with a threat that it was not worth it to put conditions on him. Shadow, disappearing, wheezed that he couldn't fight him. Let's leave. He doesn't have much strength. Liu Jie painfully muttered that he really didn't understand. Xiao Ye, slowly weakening and fading away, anxiously thought that her strength was also disappearing. She hastily opened her internal system and realized that apparently he was absorbing her. Liu Ze, with fury, hissed that he had underestimated him today, but he would destroy him next time. A frightened Xiao Chen asked, "What is he?" Yen Mu, striking another blow, asked, "He wanted to run away?" Liu Jie instantly vanished into thin air. Yen Mu muttered, "Disappeared? Did he really run away?" Zhao Chun turned to Yen Mu. Yen Mu turned his head towards him, but suddenly felt a piercing pain. Yan Mu thought that his abilities had just been released, and the characteristics were normal. So what was wrong? A worried Xiao Chen asked Mr. Yen, "Is he all right?" Yan Mu shook his head and replied that it was fine. Let's go. He thought to himself that he should ask Xiao Yue. Xiao Chen asked if he noticed that something was missing. Suddenly, a rabbit touched his leg. Yan Mu, embarrassed, explained that it was his pet rabbit, which he always carried with him. Xiao Chen, picking up the rabbit, said that there was no need to worry because he has been seeing many strange things since childhood. You can rest assured that he won't tell anyone anything. His vision and courage are extraordinary. If he doesn't mind, after he restores the Xiao family's former greatness, he hopes that he can become the family's crony. Yan Mu objected that he was a simple businessman, so he wouldn't have the opportunity to frequent the black market. Zhao Chen said that at least he volunteered to help him, so he wanted to thank him. He will make him a gift and send it to him later. Yan Mu held out a business card and said, "Okay, here is his business card. Contact him." He thought to himself, Zhao Chen is a good person. There is nothing wrong to keep in touch with him. Xiao Chun escorted Yen Mu out and said, "Thank you, Mr. Yen. Go down this alley and it will come out to Jiangcheng." Yen Mu replied, "Okay, understood." Holding the rabbit in his arms, Yen Mu said, Xiao Yue suddenly turned back into a rabbit. Did it have something to do with the power he had just unleashed? System, could he explain it? The system has responded that it has temporarily failed to establish an energy link. The system is recovering. It can't make the identification correctly. Yan Mu muttered, "What kind of joke is this?" Looking at the rabbit, he asked if she could explain to him what was going on. He thought to himself that he was stupid. Putting the rabbit on his shoulder, Yen Mu sighed and said, "Okay, forget it. Let's go home better." Yan Mu, while feeding the rabbit carrots, noted that 3 days had passed and the moon rabbit still hadn't recovered, and the system kept updating. According to the rules of currency conversion, to the 3 million earned on the black market for stones, he was to receive another 12 points. Suddenly, Meng Yao called, inviting him to a meeting. They met at the luxury residential complex Azure Bay. Meng Yao remarked that he had bought a house and didn't even want to see it. He replied that the beauty of the house was not important, but the most important thing was comfort. She sighed dreamily and said, "If only she had the opportunity to buy such a villa whenever I wanted." Fang Yushui and Xu Fei suddenly appeared. Yen Mu asked, surprised, what were they doing here? Meng Yao, taken aback, said, "Yushui's sister." Xu Fei, with a caustic smile, said, "By the way, Yen Mu, did he remember that Ms. Fan is his ex-girlfriend? He left such a pretty girl for a student?" Yan Mu took Meng Yao's hand and took it to the side, telling him to keep it to himself. Xu Fei, shifting to a more serious tone, shouted that he had bought Ma Dong's company from Lao Zi. So what would he do now? Yan Mu replied that he sold it immediately after buying it. He was afraid of ruining such an unlucky company by holding it in his hands. He thought to himself that he was able to make 100 million for nothing. Meng Yao asked, "Yen Mu, did he found the company?" He replied that he had recently won the lottery and founded the company. He wanted to let her know later. Her words sounded a little sad when she said that meant that Sister Yushui really only liked his money. Yan Mu calmly said, "It doesn't matter. If she meets them in the future, just leave. These two don't have good intentions." He mentally noted that Xu Fei had a death aura, and Fang Yushui had a seed-like aura, which was not good. Meng Yao, pulling out the tickets, said, "By the way, the day before yesterday she participated in an event and won 2 tickets to an amusement park. Today is the last day. Does he want to go?" Yan Mu happily agreed. He thought to himself that it seemed that neither Meng Yao nor he had been to the amusement park yet. After an hour in the park, Meng Yao, studying a map, suggested, first ride the roller coaster, then the pendulum, cars, and so on. Yanmu wondered and thought, why does this kid like everything so extreme? A teddy bear approached them, offering a promotional booklet. Meng Yao accepted the booklet and thanked her. Suddenly she exclaimed, Yanmu, there is a limited-time air rifle shooting competition here. 10 shots, 10 hits, and he will get the prize of a limited-edition panda doll. Yanmu asked, do you want to give it a try? The shooting range is right next door. The girl took off the teddy bear's head, thinking that there were still so many things not done. Would she have time to finish today's work? She remembered the man's words that if she didn't want to be punished, she should hand out these flyers all week. After which, he promised to put her out of line. Yanmu, after taking 10 shots, hit all 10 targets. Meng Yao enthusiastically shouted that he was amazing. The man assessed his marksmanship and said that he shoots at the level of a professional athlete. Unless you don't come to see him again. Yanmu politely said that he was honored, and it was his first time playing. He asked Meng Yao if she liked the panda. She replied, thank him. She likes it a lot. Suddenly, men accosted the girl and said, sis, it's hot today. It's hard work. Let me help. The girl replied sharply, go away, guys. Her work this week is not finished yet. Yanmu recognized the girl as Qin Yingyun. He asked, do they know each other? Meng Yao replied that she was 2 grades older than her, a very talented musician. She debuted after high school, but she hadn't heard from her for the past 2 years. One of the men, covering the girl's face with a rag, hissed, can she handle it? 2 days left, and 10,000 leaflets have not been distributed yet. The boss is losing patience. Meng Yao shouted, hey, stop it! Yanmu anxiously said, Meng Yao, don't go there. Yanmu handed her the rabbit and approached the group of men. He coldly demanded, let the girl go, or he would call the police. One of the men looked at him angrily and asked, who was he to meddle in his affairs? Yanmu took out his phone and called out Lei Feng's name. The man abruptly knocked the phone out of Yanmu's hands and muttered through his teeth, playing with him? Does he want to die? The other men supported him and said, let's deal with this problem first. The man said that if he wanted to be a hero and save the beauties, he should take care of himself first. Meng Yao took out her cell phone and said she would call the police. The manager said, baby, it's no use calling. Those hooligans have been here several times this week. They hide when the police come. The men began to approach and attack. One of them said threateningly that he didn't seem to know that this was Boss Ho's territory. You dare to argue with the leader? Yanmu, with surprising ease and speed, disarmed several attackers. Suddenly, a blow from behind. Yanmu, surprised, parried the attack and immediately incapacitated the attacker, and then seriously asked why get into a fight when he didn't even know how to fight. Gently lifting the unconscious girl into his arms, Yanmu waited for the police to arrive. The officer loudly told everyone to stand and asked, what's going on here, kid? Who called the police? At the hospital, the police officer explained that the situation was special, so they asked them to come to the hospital to testify. Yanmu replied that it was most appropriate to cooperate with the police, but he heard 3 human traffickers say that this neighborhood is Boss Ho's territory. Amazing people? He thought that if he remembered correctly, this Boss Ho was also involved in drug smuggling. Qin Yin-yun had successfully passed on information about him. The policeman explained that he was the head of an entertainment company. They suspect him of drug trafficking. If they have evidence, please provide it to the police. Suddenly, the girl woke up and exclaimed with difficulty that she had proof. She took out a baggie and said she stole them from the company. Boss Ho often kept her in the basement where the drugs were hidden. She added that she managed to escape, but she was followed every day. She had no chance of escaping. Today, they were going to find her missing. That's why they had come to catch her. The policeman assured me that this evidence is very important. Don't worry, the police will keep the information about her in the strictest confidence. The girl said firmly that she would provide them with more evidence even if she had to die. They must stop all this. Yanmu approached her, saying that he admired her ingenuity and courage. He put up his business card and said that when it was over, if she wanted to, she could go to work for his company. The girl asked who he was. The policeman replied that this gentleman was the one who had saved her today. Yanmu said goodbye and said, "Comrade policeman, if he doesn't mind, he will go home." The policeman nodded and said okay. Back home, Yanmu wondered, what mom and dad didn't come home again? Suddenly, the system alerted that a safe location was found. The system rebooted. Yanmu found himself in an unknown place and muttered that this place seemed to be different from the last time he saw it. He began to read the hieroglyphics on the wall. He was born in the void. First appearing in the world of the Empire, he was confused. Is this written in the Pangu language? Xiao Yue explained that it was a description of God's creation. Pangu was just his incarnation on Earth. He could read the whole text with his hand against the wall. He put his hand to it and read that since his birth, the world had been quiet and time was empty. He only sought to collect all sorts of rare treasures and observe the changes in the world. Suddenly, however, a guest from beyond the sky arrived and wanted to seize what he had created. He fought the criminals for over 10 days, and a thief attacked the treasure warehouse. There was nothing he could do about it, having been stabbed in the back by the enemy. In anger, he slaughtered over 10,000 thieves and was seriously injured. But there was no chi in the world for him to recover. Chaos cracked, and the rats invaded the world. He sealed himself to protect the world and continued to be reborn, waiting for the time of rebirth. Yanmu said that in their days, other invaders are called seeds. If one is able to fight 10,000, he must be a creator god. Xiao Yue added that they are the highest form of seeds from which they emerge. They are called the space-time lords. These beings who live long enough in the cracks of time and space are quite capable of destroying the world. Yanmu further said that this is his abode. There are countless treasures here. Don't destroy them. Don't take anything out of here. Then looking around, he noticed the piles of gold and muttered that he was indeed a cheapskate. Yanmu questioned, what if she couldn't take anything with her? What was the point of being here? Xiao Yu replied that according to the system's order, he would receive the first trial of the Lord God here. She explained that the first trial was a mental demon. As for who the enemy would be, only he, the one undergoing the trial, would know. Yanmu asked, what is Kanglangar's mental method? Zhao Yue explained that the Kanglangar mental technique was created by the creator god. It was said that ruthless enemy troops could be destroyed by the last stage of the technique. It could be said to be the foundation of all martial arts. Yanmu skeptically asked, isn't this a cheating technique? The girl said, think carefully, and when you are ready, just select yes in the system interface. He selected the yes button, and the system announced that the trial formation had been created. The trial time is limited to 60 minutes. Scraps of phrases began to surface in Yanmu's mind. Go to hell! Yanmu, please help! Give up all your money if you want Xiao Shui to marry him, his doppelganger angrily said. Listen to the voices in his soul. Yanmu shouted, don't say that. He and the Fong family no longer have any relationship. The doppelganger angrily continued. Fang Yushui even conspired with Ma Dong to frame him. She would not let him go. The recent tragedy will happen again. Will he be able to bear it? He remembered how his father gave him an envelope of hard-earned money and told Xiaomu, there is only 1,000 from the pension. He must take action immediately. The doppelganger pressed on and asked, doesn't he want revenge? Or does he think that if he makes a lot of money, this pain will go away? Yanmu clenched his teeth and replied with difficulty that of course he wouldn't be able to bear it. But now he wouldn't let something like this happen again. Yanmu, unable to bear it, struck the doppelganger's illusion. Dissolving, the doppelganger mumbled that he was still young. The system asked, to the end of 5 minutes to abort the test? Zhao Yue thought that this was the 99th cycle. If he passed the cycle again, the remaining strength of the Lord God would be exhausted, and the conditions would be harsher next time. Xiao Yue anxiously said, just wait a little longer. Yanmu returned and asked with a smile, is she waiting for someone? Xiao Yue thought that he had obtained a skill. Yanmu, as if reading her thoughts, nodded and said correctly. Opening the system, Yenmu muttered that since there was no way to get a reward, so why not have fun with it? Or something like that? The system said that Kanglang's mental method, also known as the two-layer mind technique, was something he had learned during his initiation. There are 9 formulas in total. He'll only tell you once, don't forget. The writing appeared, and the system said 9 steps to 1. 2 ceremonies transformed into 1. 3 sets of heaven and earth. 4 vertical and horizontal seas. 5 cranes and crows. 6 dragon steps. 7 points of peace. Concentrating, Yenmu thought that he didn't explain to him how to train, but he feels like he can handle it. He has the ability to attack, defend, respond to blows, move, and dodge. Yanmu was amazed that could he really kill 10,000 enemies with his last move? This was unbelievable. Xiao Yue reminded that time was running out. They should go. Yenmu nodded and said okay. The system announced that they would be leaving system space in 5 seconds. He asked to be ready to meet the master. They went back and Yenmu opened the system and exclaimed, "How come the attributes automatically improved, and there are more than 2,000 survival points?" Xiao Yue admitted that she didn't know. Maybe it has something to do with his advanced abilities. Yenmu objected that she is a system after all. Does she know about it? She replied that she may be a system, but the rules are set only by the Lord God. Then exclaimed with relief that she could finally have a good rest. Yay! Yanmu noticed that, wasn't this his room? He then discovered a Xingyi Chuan fragment on the floor and asked what was this, such a bonus. Sitting down, he began to read the book. He thought that of course the gods were good for nothing, and even a layman like him could realize that it was useless at all. Suddenly, he remembered that Tang Ning was obsessed with practicing martial arts. Even though it was just a fragment, perhaps it would help him understand a path or two. Meanwhile, the system reported that their task was to find the fragments of the primordial god, help him to be reborn, and become the master of time and space. Xiao Yue asked if he could change her name. System asked to change it to Boolean? Luck? Xiao Yu, unable to bear it, hit the system interface and said that she was sick of him. Go away! Suddenly, the system seriously stated to Ayu, this is the last time they communicate. Slowly disappearing, he said that after he became the lord of time and space, he would rule the world again. Xiao Yue, looking at the moon, thought that Lord God's will seemed to have completely disappeared. The next day at the inn, Tang Ning asked Mr. Yan, "The girl they were with last time didn't come?" Yanmu replied that she had some business to attend to. He thought that since that night, the moon rabbit had disappeared, but the moon eye system was still attached to it, but only the mechanical functions of request, record, and purchase remained. He anxiously thought about where Yue Ming had gone. Could she be too far away from me? Tong Ning interrupted his musings by saying Mr. Yan. Yenmu awkwardly apologized and said that he had been thinking. He said that today, in addition to talking about the cooperation between the Tang and Xingyun families, he brought a gift for Tang Xiao. It is a technique fragment for boxing that he found by chance. He heard that Tang Xiao likes martial arts, so he brought it. Tang looked at the book and was shocked. Yenmu modestly added that, however, it was an old book, contained little information, and had no strong effect. Tang Ning excitedly exclaimed, "No, Mr. Yan, this book is very important to the Tang family." Of course, only an experienced person could understand her true meaning. "It's good that it will be of use to him," Yanmu said, nodding. Tang Ning, interested, asked if Mr. Yan practiced martial arts. Last time at the investment conference, he had performed well. Yanmu was embarrassed, blushing slightly, and said with a slight smile on his face, "Don't flatter him. He is only an amateur." Tong Ning came closer and said, "Not true after all. Let's give it a try. As long as the cooperation between the Tang family and Nebula is on the level, he agrees to anything." Yanmu mentally thought that he was indeed an arts-crazed fool. They headed to the backyard. Tang Ning explained that this was where he practiced martial arts. "Mr. Yan, please don't hold back." Yanmu replied that he wouldn't insult him like that. He had recently learned some basics of martial arts and would like to ask for some advice. Tang Ning, attacking with a sharp hand strike, said, "Here he comes!" But Yanmu easily blocked the attack and then instantly intercepted his hand. Tong Ning thought in surprise, What kind of quick reaction is this? Yanmu wanted to throw him across, but Tang Ning easily dodged the counterattack. Tang Xiao's skills are very good, praised Yanmu. Tang Ning said that his were also good. He suggested that we continue sparring. After a few rounds, Yanmu took a breath and asked Tang Xiao, "Do you want to continue?" Tang Ning, wiping his sweat, recognized that with his skill, he could enter the top 3 rankings of ancient martial arts. He was no match for him. Yanmu smiled and said, "Don't make fun of him, and don't call him Mr. Yan. Just call him Yanmu. It will be more convenient." Tang Ning immediately agreed and said good day to him. Let's better make a cooperation agreement. In the evening, Yanmu came to the Nebula Group of Companies' office. When he saw Zhang Peng, he asked why he hadn't gone home yet. Zhang Peng, surprised, asked, "Mr. Yen, is something wrong?" Yanmu, holding out the folder, said, "Came after he did not answer the call. Open it and take a look. This is a great thing." Zhang Peng, unable to believe his eyes, read that the Tang family was willing to provide raw materials to Nebulu while only demanding 10% of the profits. Yanmu said that somehow, but there are still other requirements. Tang Xiao said that the final changes will be made tomorrow. Zhang Peng joyfully and confidently declared that this was enough. He would definitely not let him down. Yanmu, getting up, said, "Okay, then he will go home." And he let him not linger. Zhang Peng stopped him and said that he had one question. He continued that in fact, several members of Nebula, more specifically him and the board of directors, are not strong in commercial sales. After they're done with that, they'd like to transfer the company into Mr. Yan's name, so they won't be distracted during product development. Yanmu asked if he was afraid that he would pull something. Zhang Peng replied that they would have faith in his vision and ability. Nebula could go further under his leadership. He added that now that project options are increasing, there is not enough room. Soon another company will be a pot of porridge. Yanmu stated that they can trust everything to him, but he won't stop there. He wants to develop smartphones where the design, screen size, camera resolution, and performance will far exceed the current standards. As for Nebula, they can move all the office space to Fidelity. The next day in the office, Yanmu stretched and muttered, finally finished. He was tired already. He opened the system and thought that in less than a month, the consumption of points had exceeded the previous 2. Open a system store. The system replied that he didn't have enough authority to open a store. Yanmu asked irritably, "What the hell?" He thought it was assumed that there would be more survival points, but there was no change. Moon Rabbit had taken them away again, hadn't she? Where the hell did she go? Xiao Yu suddenly appeared and, as if reading his mind, said that she was here and asked if he missed her. He got angry and asked why she left. She replied that she had just gone to clarify something, that's all. The system has announced that survival points have been awarded. The total balance was 2,333 points. Yanmu, disbelieving, repeated 2,333. Suddenly there was screaming outside. "Call the police! Someone's going to jump off the building!" "Girl, just tell me what's on your mind. Don't jump." Yanmu exhaled deeply, trying to pull herself together, and tiredly told her to get off the windowsill now. But Xiao Yue suddenly tensed up. Her face distorted with a strange expression, and she smelled the scent of seeds. She shouted, "The owner here is Ah Jen." Ah Jen was on the roof. She smelled the seeds. Yanmu, quickly heading towards the roof, commanded her to call the police, and he goes up and saves her. As he approached the elevator, he thought that it was still 30 more flights to the top floor. The elevator is too slow. He decided to go up the stairs. He wondered what Ah Jen was doing here. What the hell was she up to? Meanwhile, Ah Jen, standing above the abyss and holding the knife, whispered, "Kill them all." Yanmu abruptly opened the door and said, "Ah Jen." She turned around and muttered that the murderer deserved to die. Yanmu, affectionately and tenderly, asked Ah Jen what was going on. He might be able to help her. He thought that such a small distance, he could save her. She uttered with hatred in her voice. Guilt let Yanmu feel guilty. After she finished speaking, she turned towards the abyss and jumped. Yanmu shouted in horror to Ajin. Yanmu, reacting lightning fast, rushed forward and managed to grab her arm at the very last moment. Gently lowering her to the ground, he thought anxiously that it was very close something had happened to her. He noticed her knife was covered in blood and thought hopefully, she hadn't killed anyone, had she? Suddenly, she opened her eyes and with a wild glint in them shouted, Yanmu! She wants him to die! Yanmu grabbed Ajin's hand, stopping her, and exclaimed, Ajin, come to your senses. It's him, Yanmu! Zhao Yue appeared and explained that someone was controlling her. Touch her forehead with your fingers and try to release her powers. Once she is free from the influence of others, she will return to normal. Yanmu gently touched her forehead. His fingers lingered for a moment, and a shadow left Ajin's body. Yanmu asked, Now will everything be all right? Suspicions were swirling in his mind. Who did it? Fang Yushui or Jilu Jie? Xiao Yue said. Let's take her to the hospital and let the police handle the rest. At this time, the police had already arrived and were shouting at people to disperse. There's no need to crowd here. It's dangerous. Yanmu affectionately lifted Ajin in his arms and confidently said that it was time to leave this place. At this time, Zhang Peng entered the office and exclaimed, Director Yen, it's about the smartphone he mentioned. They have already developed a rough model. His office was empty, so he just left the folder on Yanmu's desk and said, Okay, I'll just leave it here. Xiao Yue asked that wouldn't they be looking for the person behind all this? Yanmu replied that he would show up sooner or later. Rest for a while. He has a lot of things to do. He noticed the folder, and after opening it, he thought, regarding the scientific and technological field, Zhang Pengyue is indeed a genius. To develop such a detailed plan in a short period of time, the folder said that the 3D model of the sample smartphone, as well as its detailed specifications, on a flash drive. Yanmu thought in surprise, a flash drive? He began to nervously search the table. Xiao Yue asked, What's wrong? Did you lose something? He asked, Did she happen to find a flash drive here? She replied that she had been by his side the whole time. How could she have withheld such a thing? He called Zhang Peng and asked him if he had left the flash drive in his office. He replied that he was not there, so he just left all the documents on his desk. The flash drive should be there too. Yanmu frowned his eyebrows anxiously and said, She is not here, and asked Zhang to go to him. Meanwhile, Xu Fei hummed and said that this girl looked so fragile. Who would have thought that she would dare to attack him? Fang Yushui thought he was a brainless cretin. Xu Fei asked, She had said that A Jin would deal with Yanmu, right? Fang Yushui replied, That's the way it is. Even if it doesn't work out, she should be able to do quite a bit of damage to his health in time. He said great, because he can't stand this guy who thinks he's a god just because he has a little money. A man with money is betting that he was poor and neglected by women in a previous life. Suddenly, a man entered the room, and holding out a flash drive, told Ms. Fan what they had asked for. She took the flash drive and said, Great job. She will transfer the remaining amount to his account. He can be free. Xu Fei asked, What is it? She replied that if they didn't find out what this new project Yanmu was working on, how would they find his weak spot? He moved closer and asked, Would that really work? She said they were about to find out what he was doing there. They opened the flash drive, and the man, seeing the contents, thought Simon in surprise. Didn't she tell him that he was free? The money will be transferred to the account, Fang Yushui said, not hiding her irritation. The man nervously replied that Ms. Fan was very generous. He had no doubt about it. One of Xingyun's developers is his competitor. Intelligent technology is his specialty. He thought to himself that this woman had an incredibly intimidating aura. Xu Fei intervened and said, Let him stay. Then they could develop this thing first, and Yanmu would be left with his nose. The man, with hatred in his voice, revealed that he and Zhang Pengyue had studied together at Jiangcheng University of Science and Technology. He had stolen his idea. Moreover, he had gotten him kicked out of the university because of him. He would never put up with it. He continued that he couldn't find a job in his specialty, and here he is. Miss, if she wants to settle the score with Xingyun Company, he wants to join her. Fang Yushui thought about the fact that Xingyun had already been incorporated into the Fuda Corporation. So this is the only real source of incoming funds. So if Xingyun was finished, Yan Mu would be finished as well. Fang Yushui extended her hand and said, Mr. Wang, they agree. If he has time, they could make a cooperation agreement. He shook her hand and said fine. He would take care of the team's assembly. But the financing, Xu Fei exclaimed happily. Do your job and don't worry about the money. He had managed to make some money in the stock market all this time. Fang Yushui warned that she was giving away the flash drive, but if he decided to sell the data to other companies, let him blame himself. The man assured that they had nothing to worry about, Ms. Fan. He has some moral principles after all, and is in favor of fair and mutually beneficial cooperation. Meanwhile, in Fuda's office, Yanmu asked, had anyone suspicious been seen recently? Xingyun had only recently gotten here, so under these circumstances, someone could very well take advantage of it. Kun Rui, with a confident expression, replied, had already instructed Li Biao to investigate the matter. Zhang Peng slammed his fist on the table and angrily said that it was his fault that such an important item was missing. After all, this was the result of the entire department's hard work. Yanmu asked if there was a copy of that data. Zhang Peng replied that there is, but what good are they? Li Biao walked into the office and said that he seemed to understand. After Mr. Zhang left the office, a guy wearing a baseball cap entered the office. He went out the back exit, and the security cameras couldn't make out his face. Yanmu asked where he was going. Li Biao replied that he seemed to have a pretty good knowledge of the area, walked out of the building, and merged with the crowd, turning into a small alley. Zhang Peng, blaming himself, said that only a skillful thief could have pulled this off. But Xingyun is a very small organization, so how could it be so? Yan Mu wondered that Zhang Peng Yue had been in the development business since graduation. Where could he have made enemies? And Kun Rui used to be in the real estate business in general. Suddenly, he said, Fang Yushui or Zhiliu Jie, then commanded, Mr. Kun, he and Li Biao will handle the interrogation of the staff. Those who have anything to do with the Luntung, Madong, and Wang Jiangliu families are dismissed. Improve the surveillance system so it doesn't happen again. He figured they wouldn't leave them alone. Kunrui replied that everything would be done. Zhang Peng sadly said, Director Yan, what should he do? Everyone tried so hard, but because of his negligence, Yan Mu confidently said that everything was fine. They would always be one step ahead. He scrutinized this folder. He was inspired by the first smartphone in 1992, right? Zhang Peng replied that it is. Its specialty is touchscreen and network capability. Since it is a cell phone, some parameters had to be improved. He held out a box and said, Look at this! What they are going to do is a qualitatively new thing. Zhang Peng, with his eyes wide open and an expression of utter stunned on his face, stood there, unable to believe his gaze as he opened the box. He took the phone in his hands and asked Director Yan in surprise, Is this a new cell phone? Yanmu replied that it was a plastic model made by his good acquaintance. Take a look. Zhang Peng, looking at the phone in bewilderment, said, But there are only 3 buttons. Is it too much? Yanmu said no. The information age is upon us. Everything is about ease, speed, and convenience. And the same goes for phones and computers. Routers were also invented to provide more convenience to the user. These phones have screens that are too small, which is extremely inconvenient for playing games or just surfing the internet. Zhang Peng agreed and said that it was true. But he was afraid that the current technology would not allow something like this to be created. Yanmu came closer and reassured him and said, Don't worry. He would do his best to get the necessary funds and equipment. Zhang Peng excitedly said that he would not let him down, Director Yan. When Yanmu left, he said that he was in charge of the project development, and that he would take care of the rest. He believes in him. After arriving at the hospital, Xiao Yue asked, So what do you think about what happened to her? Yanmu replied that this, and the theft of the flash drive, none of this is an accident. Someone has a grudge against him. She offered to get inside her head, to go through her recent memories, though you'd have to spend some points. Yanmu's hand shone with a golden light as he touched her forehead and said that they couldn't do without it. He saw Ah Zhen peeling an apple for his father and said that the doctor said he would be able to walk very soon. A Zhen sadly added that another 200,000 needed to be paid for the treatment. What should she do? Suddenly, Fang Yushui and Xu Fei appeared. Xu Fei said that if she helped them with one thing, paying his father's medical bills wouldn't be a problem, and Jen frighteningly told Ms. Fan why they were here. There is no way she can help them. Fang Yushui reminded that she had already turned her back on Yanmu last time. Hadn't she forgotten? Zhen objected, her face expressing concern when she said that they were doing it illegally. Xu Fei snorted disdainfully and said that this Yanmu just wants to force Ms. Fan into submission. What a brainless wench. And Jen shouted in anger that he was the one who was brainless. This woman is deceiving him. Xu Fei grabbed her arm and roared, "Stop slandering Ms. Fa!" Fang Yushui, touching the medical tube, said that she absolutely doesn't care what she thinks about it, but thinks that if she just pulls out this tube now and he dies, she won't care. And Jen shouted in horror that she wouldn't do that. She would call the police right now. She wasn't going to help them. Fang Yushui pulled out the tube and said that she had made her choice. The air stopped flowing to Zhen's father, and he began to suffocate. Zhen, in desperation, snatched the knife, screamed to let her go, and slashed Xu Fei's hand. Xu Fei, holding on to the bleeding wound, shouted, "How dare she, stupid woman!" And Jen, walking up to her father, sobbing, shouted, "Daddy!" The memories were interrupted. Yanmu concluded that after that, Fang Yushui took advantage of Zhen's hatred for her and, controlling her, tried to take out her anger on him. Xiao Yue added that Ma Deng also what to do. Yanmu replied that he really didn't understand why she wouldn't leave him alone, but they won't get away with it this time. Let's go to Father Zhen's room. Maybe they can find some clues there.